A game called Deus Ex Machina Ragnarok, shortened to Temro, was a newly released title that shot to #1 worldwide, ushering in a new era for VR gaming. Temro dominated the global market, flourished spectacularly, and grabbed Game of the Year. This was the legendary game that once had over 100 million concurrent players, but its shine gradually cooled down. Temro's rankings steadily slipped over time, and its servers are about to shut down completely. A group of players sat together around a campfire. In front of them now were a few lines of in-game notices. Hello, this is Deus Ex Machina Ragnarok. In 30 minutes, the game will officially cease operation. Doyun Akakaiser, Temro's top player, showed no expression reading those lines. Beside him, Purpletaste muttered with a bored tone, "This damn game. I cursed it to crash every day, and now it actually died." Purpletaste, top 5 in Temro. Sword Emperor frowned and replied unwillingly, "I agree with you. Aside from being garbage, it was pretty fun. Don't know why it shut down." Sword Emperor, top 4 in Temro. No sooner had he finished than Keikaku Chicken chimed in. "If dragons keep dropping bricks instead of loot, of course it would crash." Keikaku Chicken, top 3 in Temro. As he finished, Sword Emperor irritatedly shot back, "Do you always have to kill the mood like that? You dodge my gaze while throwing shade, am I wrong?" Sword Emperor knitted his brows and kept grumbling, "Thought that mask made you lame. Turns out your whole personality is trash too." Keikaku Chicken's limit was reached. He puffed up challengingly. "What, wanna solo?" The attitude made him so fed up he had to sigh. Truly just knows how to fight. Their bickering was cut off by Doyun's voice from afar. But then he offered a wry smile himself. "I am a little sad too." Purpletaste laughed in agreement. "Fair enough. You farmed this game harder than anyone else. It's really a shame." He added with a sigh, "Watching you fight, I always thought you were being chased by someone." Keikaku Chicken shrugged and playfully added, "But the heavens are fair. You're the unluckiest of our bunch." Purpletaste gave a crooked smile and replied, "No legendary skill, and still top of a server. If he had a bit more luck, none of us would be in the same league." Old stories were recalled by Keikaku Chicken. 10 enchants in a row exploded and he screamed, "The world is crushing me. You had to see that to enjoy it." Purpletaste concluded with a verdict. "On second thought, he's the biggest screw-up of all." The tale sent the whole group into laughter. This time Sword Emperor joined in. "The unluckiest person I've ever met, hands down." After they'd finished chatting, Temro's final announcement appeared. "Hello, this is Deus Ex Machina Ragnarok. As planned, today the game will officially close its server. Thank you for staying with us until the last moment." Their avatars began to fade. Purpletaste smiled and offered a final farewell. "Thanks for the grind, everyone." Sword Emperor turned his gaze away and assessed. "Well then, it's really over." Meanwhile, Keikaku Chicken smiled brighter and made them a promise. "See you in a better game next time." Doyun stood motionless the whole time, watching his friends leave. The fire kept burning, even growing stronger. He said nothing as he was the last to The game's light gradually faded away. The VR headset was set down on the table like a full stop. Temro's servers officially closed, and 2 years have passed. A new day began in this modern city. Buses whooshed along the main road. On one bus, a soldier dozed beside 2 young men when an exclamation rang out. "Impressive controls, huh?" Yangjun glanced at his phone and commented, "Check this out. Soloing the Demon Lord all by himself." He snorted, eyes never leaving the screen. Among the execution squad's rankers, he's still the strong. This time Jimin, eyes sparkling, added, "Organizations are one thing, but I prefer the Lady Emperor. Her poise and lone wolf style are just chef's kiss." He looked at his buddy's phone and added, "Nobody can beat those 2 now, right?" Yangjun lazily asked, "Isn't there one more?" Jimin couldn't help but wonder who. His tone changed completely when he mentioned his idol, the strongest of Temro, top 1 Kaiser. Jimin exclaimed as he remembered, "Oh right, there's Kaiser too, but when the game shut down he disappeared with it. I wonder what he's doing now." Beside them, Doyun only gave a wry smile. It's been 2 years since Temro closed its server. Times have changed, and the hottest game now is Temro's successor, called God of Savior, or GOS for short. Like its predecessor, this game saw player numbers rise very quickly. The game's content was also greatly improved. Many new races and classes were introduced, creating a world of boundless freedom. The smile on Doyun's face grew more sinister as he thought to himself, "Wait and see, the god rankers are back." Kang Doyun, former Temro top 1 Kaiser, had just been discharged with the rank of army sergeant. He was headed for a high-rise apartment building. As soon as he arrived home, Doyun called out hurriedly, "Capsule, where's the capsule?" His sister, seeing him, could only exclaim, "What, you're home already?" She and their mother watched Doyun breeze past like a gust and added, "You come home and immediately look for the capsule, huh?" Their mother's half-joking, half-serious complaint echoed, "When you were little you were always calling for Mom. Now that you're grown, you don't need anyone, do you? But Doyeon didn't hear any of it. He was busy inspecting what lay before him. In the center of the room stood a gaming pod, that thing everyone only ever saw on live streams, a VR capsule. Doyeon pressed his cheek to it, thrilled. Over a year and a half in the military, he'd saved bit by bit and finally owned one. His hand glided over the pod as he kept marveling inwardly at its feel and curves. Wasting no time, Doyeon quickly opened it. Once settled inside, he looked around and judged, even if it's second-hand, the cushioning is pretty good. Without hesitation, Doyeon grabbed the helmet and eagerly declared, "Then let's log in and try." The connection proceeded smoothly. The game's announcements rang out, scanning irises, verifying ID card. Very quickly, Doyeon completed it. ID confirmed, synchronization complete. The game's icon appeared along with a notice for God of Save. Welcome to the paradise of adventure. He appeared in a hall flooded with light. Lines of instructions popped up in succession. Please create a character. Doyeon stared blankly at his reflected image in the mirror. Is this my character? He raised a hand to scratch his head and thought to himself, I look way too much like a soldier. However, when Doyeon saw all the messy hairstyle options popping up, he felt annoyed. What a jumble, just finish this already. The system then requested, please set a nickname. He considered it carefully. A nickname. Doyeon's lip curled when the familiar name appeared. Kaiser. Character setup completed with a notification. Character created. Hello Kaiser, your hashtag is Kaiser312543. Transferring to the tutorial area. He was greeted by a scene of devastation and flames everywhere. This was the blood-soaked battlefield of Arlen from the past. Appearing here, Doyeon was stunned and thought to himself, is this really a VR game? Notification panels appeared. Please choose a weapon. He read and pondered silently. A weapon. Glancing over the familiar items, Doyeon remarked, it's the same old gear, nothing special. In the end, he chose by instinct, picking what felt natural in his hands. Holding the weapon, he was satisfied and thought, since Temroke, I've only ever used a sword. Just after he finished selecting the weapon, a voice called from behind, hey you there. The figure of a man came running over in a panic. He followed with an accusation, what are you doing here? I'm Captain Charlie of the cavalry. Charlie grabbed Doyeon's hand and pulled him along, urging, hurry, we have to go now. His face was full of horror. The other mercenaries had all been engaged. As Doyeon moved with Charlie, another notification appeared, teamed up with Captain Charlie of the cavalry. The two of them ran quickly over the wall and then entered the castle together. The scene before Doyeon was strewn with corpses. Charlie looked around with a grim face, muttering curses. So they finally colluded with the fiends. If the rumor is true, he signed a pact with that monster. His tone grew serious as he added, if we don't stop it now, that thing will descend upon us. Then Charlie began leading Doyeon along. Hurry, this way, and we'll get there right away. He said nothing and followed cautiously behind. Just as they stepped through the welcoming doorway, an arrow flew in from the distance. Charlie froze in his track. He glared ahead in displeasure. On this side, a horde of monsters had appeared. Quickly, Charlie declared, they've surged all the way here. Let me clear a path for you. But before he could finish, Doyeon charged forward with his sword. One of the monsters roared in fury. His gaze did not waver. He focused solely on the fight before him. Seeing the monster swing its weapon, Charlie shouted a warning, watch out. Meanwhile, Doyeon merely pivoted his heel lightly, and the monster's attack veered off course. It was so stunned, it widened its eyes in shock. Now it was Doyeon's turn to draw his sword and counterattack. He delivered a clean slash like slicing sugarcane, backpedaling his foe. Doyeon's expression didn't change one bit. Riding the momentum, he quickly advanced forward. The monsters watched their comrades fall in an instant and grew frantic, while others charged recklessly, heedless of life or death. They attacked but failed once again. Doyeon coiled his leg, preparing to counter. His knee slammed straight into its jaw. The monster groaned in pain. Seeing its comrades defeated, the surviving monsters shuddered. They turned pale with fear, yet Doyeon showed no mercy to anyone. He lunged forward powerfully and delivered the finishing blow. Only then did Doyeon's footsteps slow. The remaining monsters were finally slain. He swung his sword to shake off the blood still clinging to the blade. Then Doyeon grinned contentedly, thinking he was rusty from not fighting, but it wasn't so bad after all. He jumped around a bit to feel his body. Actually, he felt lighter than before. At that moment, Charlie exclaimed, unbelievable that you single-handedly took down 5 monsters. Notifications appeared as his expression shifted. Captain Charlie of the cavalry is impressed by your strength. Charlie's favorability has increased. Doyeon was puzzled by the term favorability. He began to wonder, Temroke had this too, but only once. Does it really rise so quickly? Is that too generous? Meanwhile, Charlie was forming his own thoughts. An unknown mercenary with such power. Could this young man be a hero who only exists in legend? Notifications kept appearing. Captain Charlie was deeply moved by your battle. Charlie's favorability surged and reached maximum. Now he fully trusts you. If you do something wrong and claim you're innocent, he'll believe you. Next came a compiled quest and a new in-game title for reaching max favorability. A rare rank title awarded for max NPC favorability in the tutorial. The favorability effect with NPCs increases faster than all other stats by +2. Reading this, Doyun commented with interest. Not bad. Charlie stepped closer and said that things would be much easier with his help. He then pointed to the door ahead and explained, just defeat the black necromancer inside, and this battle will be won. Before they could move, the surrounding space shifted. Oh my, are they beginning to summon? Thunder and lightning appeared, followed by more monsters. Seeing the danger, Charlie immediately ordered, leave this area to me. You go in and stop the summoner. His body shone as he added, if it's you, I can entrust this with confidence. He entrusted Doyun, saying, may Saint Arlen's blessing be bestowed upon this hero. Then Charlie charged straight ahead. Left behind, Doyun was momentarily stunned. Am I supposed to go in? He recalled the videos posted earlier and wondered. But in the tutorial videos, Charlie was the one who went in first. Very quickly, an explanation popped up. Apparently, the storyline changes based on player actions, but can it really change this much? Doyun stopped in front of the door. A sinister aura poured out intensely, and a notification appeared. Only one person may enter. If you die, the seal will be broken, and all of the boss's negative statuses will be removed. Do you want to enter? Reading this, he marveled again that even the tutorial displays notification. However, Doyun realized once more that this was a hidden element. To explain the hidden element, this is a mechanic concealed within the game that only activates or is obtainable under special conditions and sometimes grants extremely rare reward. The system asked again for his decision. Do you really want to enter? Doyun wore a confident smile. There's no reason to avoid it. Yes. The moment he chose, the gate opened. Doyun was greeted by screams and the sight of someone being devoured. Why is it like this? I summoned you, so you must obey me. The corner of the blood-red draconic spirit's mouth was stained with blood. Doyun's eyes widened in shock. Fresh drops of blood fell from it. What stood before him was a chained Ironblood Drake. Boss title: named boss, legendary rank, danger level, unknown species, draconic trait, sealed. Described as a drake from the abyss with the title Ironblood, currently bound in chains, its full power is sealed, severely restricting its movements. Doyun's mouth dropped open in disbelief. A legendary rank boss. Speaking of which, this game's god of savior borrows heavily from its predecessor, Deus Ex Machina Ragnarok. One of those elements is the ranking system, which includes tiers like epic and legendary. Notably, this ranking rule is also applied to raid monsters, and the most special among them are the ones granted unique names. And right now, the chained Ironblood Drake is such a boss with its own proper name. The Drake raised its head to regard Doyun, then suddenly let out a roar. The force of that roar targeted him directly, and notification panels began popping up. You have just heard the roar of the imprisoned Ironblood Drake. Your physical abilities are reduced due to the overwhelming presence of this entity. Movement speed reduced by 20%, attack speed reduced by 20%, defense reduced by 30%, magic resistance reduced by 25%. Doyun grimaced in annoyance and thought, are you kidding me? Is this some kind of cruel joke? He inspected the Drake's body and wondered whether, even sealed, its stats would really make a difference. Doyun's gaze dropped to its feet. If that massive claw grazed me, it would be an instant kill. But he reminded himself that he was used to this kind of chaos. Things like this happened all the time back in Temro. Combat memories from playing the old game resurfaced, and every time he made only one decision. The aura around Doyun shifted. One outcome was survival, the other death. He suddenly opened his eyes as he sensed something was wrong. The Drake launched an attack from somewhere, forcing Doyun to step back to dodge as his feet skidded along the ground before stopping. Using the momentum, Doyun slashed at its leg. The Drake screamed in pain, while he himself struggled to hold his ground. As the Drake's shadow loomed overhead, Doyun retreated. He quickly moved out of its attack range. However, after the counterattack, Doyun was shoved back, and his brows knit together. Doyun watched the Drake's health bar and estimated 120 HP, 999,880. It lost 120 health in just 2 hits. But then he let out a rueful sigh. Just like the forums said, this difficulty is garbage. They'd told each other, how could you expect to defeat a named boss? You're insane. It's impossible. It's not meant to be killed by you. As Doyun relentlessly attacked, he remembered those comments. Don't even mention the Ironblood Drake or whatever that thing is. It gives me the creeps. Honestly, it's terrifying. Besides you, anyone still asking about it. Wait, is there really no way to kill it? I see someone dealing damage to it. No, it's hopeless. Not even the destroyer could take it down. Doyan kept swinging, dealing damage despite the offhand chatter. I think the devs just made it take damage for realism. Wow, did you really think of attacking it? I just stood there dumb until I died. His effort quickly sparked a new wave of discussion. What the hell, its name just changed, right? The decay of reason. What's happening? Oh my god, wait, did it actually change? Do names auto-change like that? Comments flooded in, a bug. No way, it's controlled by someone far smarter than Alpha. So what's the reason? Don't tell me someone actually killed it. Really, how could a level 1 kill a leader? You mean someone just defeated a raid boss even the destroyer couldn't beat? Who is it? Doyan drove his sword into the drake's foot once more, hard enough to make it spurt blood. The drake let out a pitiful roar. Its massive body collapsed to the ground, limp. Then notification panels appeared. You have defeated the chained Ironblood Drake. You are the first to kill the tutorial boss. You single-handedly defeated a named legendary boss. This feat will be recorded in history. Your reward is... Doyan was busy panting after the exhausting fight. Unbelievable. He muttered in annoyance, truly a nightmare of a monster. As he pulled his sword from its body, Doyan mumbled, "The first one, huh?" He glanced elsewhere and thought to himself that even those bastards couldn't kill it. Doyan found himself thinking of his old friends. The devs, damn them, letting this be beatable. What a trash game, get rid of it, damn it. The corner of his mouth curved into a smile as he wondered how they were doing now. Notifications drew Doyan's attention. You have received the title First Drake Slayer. Your talents will form based on your playstyle and achievements. A string of skills unlocked. Mastery of Arms talent appeared. Potential Drake talent appeared. Conqueror talent appeared. Hero talent revealed. The Perseverer talent appeared. The required conditions have been met. The unique tier talent, Eye of Truth, appeared. Reading this, Doyan couldn't help but wonder what was going on. Why was he receiving so many talents? He waved his hand at the notification as if to confirm it, thinking that normally in a tutorial you'd only get one. Speaking of traits, this is one of the unique systems in God of Savior. They range from exploration aids like guides to combat-focused types like swordmasters. The higher your achievements, the higher the talent tier you receive. Reading this, Doyan couldn't help exclaiming, "This is crazy, boosts all stats, grants swordmaster effects for any weapon, spatial tracking, and immunity to negative effects." His eyes lit up as he continued looking downwards. And there was more. Doyan focused on a single line, another unique tier talent, the Truthseer's Eyes, a unique tier talent that reveals everything hidden. The more he read, the more intrigued he became. Master of Arms, Hero, Conqueror, all excellent talents, but none of them were unique. Doyan muttered to himself confidently that even if no one possessed them all at once, many players would surely hold at least one of them. Then he turned his attention to one item, the Truthseer's Eyes. Being unique tier means it's a one-of-a-kind in the entire world. After thinking it over, Doyan's lips curved into a smile. He'd just hit the jackpot, 1 unique talent and 5 common ones. His profile panel appeared, title First Drake Slayer Legendary. Description, deals additional damage to raid monsters. Passive, +5 to all stats when devouring, applies to raids and can stack up to +10. Plus this dominant title. It felt like Doyan was being bathed in celestial honey, wonderfully sweet. He couldn't believe someone with his rotten luck could get such an opportunity. However, his thoughts were interrupted by a noise outside. Charlie also turned toward the door on that side. As if he couldn't believe his eyes, he stammered out. Then Charlie slowly stepped forward a few paces. On this side, Doyan was still dazed. As he entered, he finally spoke. "I could have sworn I heard the roar of a real beast. Did you truly slay that creature?" Doyan looked at Charlie and nodded in acknowledgement. "Well, I suppose so." Charlie stared at him in amazement and exclaimed, "Yet you're standing here without a scratch. What kind of great sage are you?" Doyan began to explain, "Well, but Charlie hurriedly raised a hand to stop him. "It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from anymore." With the respectful bearing of a knight, Charlie placed his hand on his chest and declared that true heroes appear in troubled times. "I firmly believe your presence, Doyan. You still seem unaware of what's happening." His voice rang out once more. "You will become a beacon, bringing great change to this chaotic world. And I, Charlie, trust that with all my heart." Charlie even dropped to his knees. "O great hero, I beg you, might you grant this humble knight?" His hand on his chest as he pledged the honor of becoming your sword. A system notification explained the situation. "Charlie, commander of Arlen's Knights, wishes to swear fealty to you. If you accept, Charlie will relinquish his title and become the Kaiser's subordinate. His lord will receive all corresponding benefits from him." Doyan's eyes widened as he inwardly thought, "Are you kidding me?" The system then clarified, Because he has long since died, you will not receive any benefits even if you become his master. Reading this calmed him somewhat. Right, this tutorial is just a reenactment of the past. Doyun nodded slightly and replied, so this is only a ceremonial event. Fine, I accept. Charlie brightened at these words and more notifications appeared. You have accepted Charlie's oath. You will forever be his master in the memory of Commander Charlie. The battle recorded in history as the tragedy of Arlen Castle will now be remembered as a final victory in Charlie's mind. He will rest in peace and look forward to a better future. Doyun silently observed what lay before. Rest in peace, a light suddenly appeared along with a prompt. You will soon be taken to the Pantheon. That blue light formed a portal. At that moment, Charlie from behind spoke up. My lord. The question he asked was full of anticipation. Where will our next destination be? Doyun turned his head back while thinking to himself, our next destination. He smiled and explained that, after all, this is a harsh world. Doyun's expression grew serious as he declared, then we'll go wherever we need to go. Charlie's eyes brightened at those words, wherever we need to go. A blue light enveloped them. The system continued announcing that teleportation was preparing, and you will be taken to the Pantheon in 5 seconds. 5, 4. Suddenly Charlie shoved an item into Doyun's hand. My lord, please accept this. Doyun looked at it puzzled. What's this? The system's countdown kept echoing. You have received an item. A satisfied smile on Charlie's lips. Thank you, my lord. Please save us. As they teleported to the Pantheon, the scene before Doyun shifted rapidly, and a message appeared. Welcome to the Pantheon. This is where you choose a deity and decide the path you'll take. We wish you receive the protection of the god. Doyun looked around with an expressionless face. So this is the famed Pantheon from the rumor. Moreover, rather than the noble name Pantheon, people often know this place as a card-drawing hub, a distinctive CTC feature that has made players laugh and cry. This is where the divine draw begins. You may serve only one god, and your profession will depend entirely on the deity you choose. Furthermore, because everything in CTC is strictly tiered, the gods also have rank categories. Epic gods, heroic gods, and legendary gods. Epic gods are entities who became gods through tales passed down by mortals since ancient time. Heroic gods are individuals once hailed as heroes who ascended to the Pantheon to join the divine ranks. The highest rank is legendary gods, those who forged legends themselves, like Zeus in Greco-Roman myth, or Odin from Norse mythology, who belong to this group. Of course, the higher the rank, the greater the prestige. A system message then appeared. Each card hides a different god. Please choose the deity you wish to follow as your patron. Seeing the large number of cards, Doyun exclaimed, wow, there are really a lot of choices here. He decided to close his eyes and pick at random. His luck was terrible anyway, so no need to be greedy. Unexpectedly, among the pile there was one card that shone differently. Why was that card glowing with a brilliant golden light? At the same time, a skill activated, the Truthseer's eyes. Doyun's eyes widened as he murmured the lines he'd read to see through what was hidden. Then he exclaimed, this power is beyond imagination. He looked at the glowing card and began calculating possibilities. If this is real, from now on every pack I open I'll have the upper hand. Memories of playing with teammates surfaced. How did your bad luck get so pitifully tragic? Everything else was fine, but your luck. Remembering it made Doyun feel a bit hurt. He used to just laugh it off, but did anyone know how bitter it truly felt inside? His gaze fixed on the glowing card, but now with this in hand, returning to the ranks of the leaders is entirely feasible. However, despite his swelling pride, Doyun reminded himself to stay calm. His hands slowly reached out unerringly. I will aim only for the golden cards. At last he grasped that card. Its information quickly appeared. You have drawn the legendary god, the Lone Blade God tier. Do you wish to choose this deity? Doyun's lips curled into a triumphant smile. A legendary god, with this start. But immediately a red background message appeared. The qualification to become an apostle has not formed. You cannot become an apostle of tier. Please draw a card again. Doyun's mood instantly sank. What the hell is happening? I can't become an apostle, the system announced. Tier seemed utterly bewildered by this unexpected situation. He carefully calculated. My physique to contain the power hasn't been created. Doyun had to admit he'd never heard of or seen such a strange case before. Finally, a flash of insight struck him. Wait, a vessel to contain the power. Doyun recalled past events. Normally, after players slay a Ma dragon, a goddess appears to grant a prophecy. His thought continued, but because I defeated the red dragon, the goddess didn't manifest. Could all this trouble be because I never received the goddess's enlightenment? Then Doyun opened his status panel, a level 11 player with max affinity from the start. Title, First Drake Slayer. Strength +5 +18, Agility +5 +18, Stamina +5 +18, Perception +5 +18. that part was completely missing. He quickly noticed the difference. In the vocation section, where it should have listed Apostle with 210 stamina, it showed the Adventurer class instead. The secondary title only displayed the two words Adventurer. A tough problem had been posed. Damn it, what now? Do-yeon looked up again. If this continues, the other cards will be worthless anyway. They'll just report that I lack the qualification. All his earlier excitement popped like a bubble. Do you know how long I've waited for this moment? Do-yeon groaned, holding his head and trying to remind himself what to do. If I delete this character and create a new one, I'll have to wait 60 days. But then he noticed something else. Do-yeon's gaze fixed on a red card lying on the ground. Red, huh. His hand touched it as he thought to himself that he'd never even heard of a red tier card before. Information for the card immediately appeared. You have drawn a hidden card. You selected Hasiar, the last forgotten adventurer. You possess the aptitude of an adventurer. You have officially become Hasiar's apostle. Do-yeon's eyes shone with the red of the card. I'm sure this is a secret fragment. System messages flooded in as red light slowly enveloped him. You have ascended to the last adventurer. You have acquired the skills of this class. Vocation, last adventurer. A description follows that humanity's earliest were all adventurers. They were masters of Vestal, stronger than anyone. Their power even threatened the gods until they perished in vain on that fateful day. Humanity was defeated, and I am the last adventurer remaining. Long-winded lore entries follow. Innate adventurer ability. Adventurers crave freedom, are masters and friends of Vestal, and carry explosive potential. Effect. You can learn and use any skill without being limited by vocation. Reading this, Do-yeon could only exclaim that this was truly insane. He was pleased, thinking that no longer being bound by a class meant he could cast every skill, and then find ways to develop it. Thus he could build his own techniques, selecting only the most useful skills to employ. Do-yeon quickly sketched a roadmap. Combined with the Truthseer's eyes, he would be able to obtain exactly the moves he wanted. What if I pair this with the Master of Arms talent? He even imagined the future. Then he'd truly become omnipotent, with no weaknesses left. The system continued to provide information. The vocation transfer is complete. You will be teleported to the Vastal region shortly. Throughout the process, Do-yeon kept reminding himself that, with this beginning, the system's countdown sounded 3. Do-yeon's mouth curled into a proud smile. It's well worth trying again. Light was gradually enveloping his whole body. To climb to the rank of a master in the Vastal region, Ard, the city of beginnings, was filled with light and bustle. Everyone had their own goals. Oh man, my draw failed miserably this time. Be patient a little longer. In Gatos, there are still countless things to do even if you're not a combat class. On the street, two figures walked together. One of them complained, we haven't found any promising candidates today, those talent scouts. Speaking of talent scouts, they're officials responsible for recruiting new members for guilds, but to players they're just annoying cult recruiters asking, do you believe? The gray-haired guy snapped. This month I need to meet quota, or that damn manager will start raging again. The black-haired one looked elsewhere and said, hey, look at that young man over there. They watched Do-yeon and judged aloud that he looked like a pathetic mess. His spirit seemed completely broken. Finally, the two decided to leave him be. There's no point recruiting someone that rundown. In truth, Do-yeon was reading the info in front of him. Blood Collar and the Covenant, a pledged jewelry item created from Charlie's blood. Commander Arlen's heir alone may possess this heroic-grade equipment. Level requirement, none. Exclusive to Charlie's owner. Special option, defense and magic resist will increase after accumulating a certain amount of experience. Unlocks at level 35. He gaped inwardly, amazed. This is heroic tier gear. Even the attribute lines are extraordinary. Again, Do-yeon felt bathed in honey. The sensation was sweet, utterly wonderful. However, a notification appeared and cut his excitement. Quest, Purge the Goblins. Do-yeon read, muttering, a goblin extermination quest. Not only him but many others received the same notice. Purge common-level goblins. Description, an entrusted request from Dante, a veteran hunter in Ard. Kill goblins 040. Reward, 80 silver and some experience. Risk, Dante's favor may decrease. Time limit, 24 hours. Each reacted differently. This is a great hunting quest. What luck. I don't even have to waste time standing in line anymore. From afar, Dante stood on a high platform, waving excitedly. I'm counting on you hunters. Please purge those stupid goblins for me. Upon receiving the quest, people immediately formed parties, looking for teammates forming a party. Anyone want to do the collection quest? Party needed. Tank, DPS, support to grind straight to level 12. Do-yeon looked around and assessed the situation cautiously. It seemed everyone was joining parties to work on it. From behind, a group of 3 approached him and offered, sorry to bother you. We're planning to grind quickly to level 12. Want to come with us? Their faces broke into friendly smiles. Let's play together to earn extra bonus points for grouping. We'll hunt together. Do-yeon considered the offer very seriously. Forming a party, that actually makes sense. He also understood that hunting becomes much easier with teammates, and with the bonus experience, group hunting is almost mandatory. Do-yeon didn't hesitate and quickly agreed. Sure, let's form a party. Party Shieldesthebist formed successfully. Party Shieldesthebist level 1, Mihinchudi level 1, Yubingong level 1, Kaiser level 1. When they saw Do-yeon's name, Shieldesthebist quickly remarked, "You're a fan of Kaiser too." Mihinchudi curiously added, "Who is this Kaiser anyway?" Kind Yubingong beside them explained, "He was once number 1 back in Temroke." Her eyes lit up as she understood. "Oh, so you must be a die-hard Kaiser fan." She nodded in agreement. "Exactly, you even named yourself Kaiser." All the while Do-yeon could only smile awkwardly and stayed silent. Their spirits lifted. "So shall we set off? Let's reach level 12 as fast as we can." "Let's go," he reluctantly complied. Very quickly combat broke out. Shieldesthebist inflicted a disadvantageous status on a green goblin. It was stunned for 1 second. He successfully initiated the attack and turned back to signal, "I just set a trap. Everyone focus your attacks on it." Yubingong fired an arrow and shouted, "Mihinchudi." She understood immediately and joined the attack on the spell orb. The two friends dealt damage together and quickly took the goblin down. "You have successfully slain a green goblin." The remaining goblins watched their comrade fall, half confused and half enraged. They decided to charge forward, risking their lives. However, once again Shieldesthebist successfully used his shield for the team. Yubingong's voice rang out, "Block the hits." Mihinchudi followed, "Use your shield, brother." Shieldesthebist braced to block the green goblins and loudly urged, "Finish it quickly." But the two other members hesitated. "Wait up a moment, my skill's still on cooldown." At that moment, the silhouette of another green goblin appeared from behind. Even Shieldesthebist was taken aback. Its face split into a triumphant grin. Confident the sneak attack would succeed, yet there was movement on the ground as well. Do-yeon lunged forward and felled that green goblin with a single slash. "You have slain a green goblin." Shieldesthebist looked visibly astonished. Yubingong and Mihinchudi wore the same expression. Do-yeon lightly landed after having killed that green goblin. But a second later, he charged up again. Next, Do-yeon swept through the group of goblins. Lines of messages followed. "You have slain a green goblin. You have slain a green goblin." The party members, seeing the slaughter, were visibly thrilled. "Fantastic, great job, Kaiser. Kaiser is truly number 1. After finishing up, Do-yeon sheathed his sword. Shieldesthebist appeared behind them with a smile. "Everyone worked hard, great job. You've really got skill." He even began to daydream. "If we keep this up, we'll reach our goal soon." Before he could finish, Shieldesthebist hastily warned, "Kaiser, behind you." From the forest edge, a horde of green goblins emerged. They all wore ferocious expressions. Seeing the numerical disadvantage, Shieldesthebist suggested retreat. "We can't face that. Run, get away first." However, Do-yeon once more charged forward. "Kaiser." The green goblins on this side eagerly surged forward. He leaped high, preparing to engage them in melee. In Do-yeon's eyes, there was murderous intent toward them. The forest, which had been peaceful, was shaken a moment later by a flurry of attacks. Purpletaste asked in bafflement, "Why do you always throw yourself into such risky fights? Are you hot-headed, or is there something wrong with you? A reckless person will sooner or later taste defeat." To that question, Do-yeon answered nonchalantly, "Reckless? What nonsense are you talking about?" He began to explain, "Look, when your HP is in the danger zone, and then a boss-level monster suddenly appears, rushing straight at it isn't that madness?" But he was cut off by another question from Do-yeon, "Yet I still managed to defeat it." Purpletaste paused briefly and agreed, "Well, that's undeniable. You're not wrong, but that action is still extremely dangerous." Back in the present, a horde of green goblins stood before Do-yeon. How thoughtless. He looked at them and silently agreed, "Perhaps so. There's no reason to do that. Risking your life for pointless fighting is unnecessary." At that, Shieldesthebist hurriedly turned to retreat. "We can't handle them. I'm pulling back now." However, Do-yeon charged forward. Kaiser thought to himself that he'd never fought blindly. The green goblins happily surged at him. The two sides quickly crashed into each other. Do-yeon's eyes gleamed red. He fought simply because he was sure he would win. The forest, which had been peaceful, was stirred a moment later as you cast the crushing skill. Do-yeon relentlessly attacked the green goblins. System messages appeared nonstop. A critical strike was landed. "You have successfully slain a green goblin." Through loot distribution, Kaiser received a green goblin hide. Mid-fight, he glanced back. Only a single poison flute goblin remained. Do-yeon's footsteps shifted direction, and he aimed at them to attack. I believe I can do it. Sweet, flowing sword strikes were continuously unleashed. The poison flute Green Goblin once again prepared to ambush. Do-yun was cutting down its comrade when a hidden projectile flew toward him. The momentum skill activated, Overcome, a talent effect that uses willpower to break all limits. Overcome has been activated. Do-yun's vision was enhanced, and he easily caught that hidden projectile. The Green Goblin watched this in astonishment, mouth agape. Do-yun lunged directly at it to attack. Then his foot slid in a long arc across the ground. For another Green Goblin, eager and overconfident, was charging toward Do-yun. It gritted its teeth and swung its sword at Do-yun. His eyes flashed red, and with a single blow Do-yun easily felled the Green Goblin. System messages appeared. Thanks to the Mastery Weapon talent, all equipment restrictions are removed. Under the Explorer effect, you can use the dagger's basic skill. A sly smile formed at the corner of his mouth. Take a look at this. With his free hand shifted, he pulled out a dagger. Then Do-yun stabbed the dagger into the Green Goblin. You executed the stab into an opening skill. You hit the enemy's weak point, and a critical hit was scored. He had barely taken that one down when another confronted him. Their weapons clashed together. Do-yun successfully knocked the club out of this Green Goblin's hand. The Mastery Weapon trait removes barriers to equipment use. The Explorer talent lets you use the weapon's basic skill, a swing. In the blink of an eye, he was standing before it. The Green Goblin's face registered terror, and that was the moment it met its death. Do-yun plunged his dagger into it as he disarmed it. Then he used that very club to finish off the Green Goblin. You used the swing skill. System messages flooded in. Your weapon mastery level increased. Your weapon use skill is now level 2. Your dagger proficiency rose to level 2. Your sword proficiency improved. Your sword mastery is now level 3. This looks pretty solid. Looking at the battlefield he had created, Do-yun silently marveled. He thought he only learned skills without constraints, but he hadn't expected to be able to use them immediately like this. His face lit up with excitement. This far exceeded his expectations. Behind him, Shieldethebist was still watching. He could hardly believe what was happening. What the hell is going on? This is impossible. Everyone knows the truth. Even a seasoned party would struggle to hunt down a whole horde of goblins like that. Shieldethebist kept watching Do-yun. Could he have cleared them all by himself? His name caught his eye, ID Kaiser. Kaiser. Shieldethebist nervously wondered to himself, could this really be Kaiser? But then he hastily dismissed it. No, that can't be. After all, everyone knew he was a genius expert who had vanished from the scene for 2 years. What on earth is Kaiser doing here? Since Temrok closed, no one had heard news of him, and now he suddenly appears in our group today. This made no sense at all. Shieldethebist grew more puzzled. Who exactly is this guy? Meanwhile, Do-yun was busy savoring his victory. Ah, wonderful, amazing. His somewhat perverse expression unnerved Shieldethebist. The guy seemed a little crazy. A blue light suddenly appeared. Do-yun watched as the Green Goblins slowly vanished, and quickly realized that everything would disappear except for the dropped weapons. He paid it little mind. After all, he'd removed weapon limits and could even cast skills, so this was enough for now. Then Do-yun requested to open his status panel. It appeared almost instantly. Player Kaiser, level 4, HP 300-350, MP 200-150, Stamina 230-140, Profession. Explorer, Class Disciple Title ×2, Favorability Max from the start. First Servant, Strength 5 plus 18, Agility 5 plus 20, Constitution 5 plus 19, Perception 5 plus 18, Magic 5 plus 18, Unspent Points. Ha, I gained 3 levels from just one hunt. Do-yun casually reviewed the info. Although I'm not restricted by any weapon type, my foundation is still sword use. I'll add 9 points to Strength, 8 to Agility, and put the rest into Perception. In his mind, he ran calculations. The other stats were temporarily boosted by Charlie's titles and necklace already. Exclamations from behind drew his attention. Oh my god, Kaiser, that performance was terrifyingly awesome. The party members all admired him. I'm officially your hardcore fan now. Kaiser, you're truly #1. Shieldethebist couldn't help but wonder. At this level of power, is he really the legendary Kaiser? Yubingong beside him hurriedly added, come on, that person has been inactive for ages. How could he suddenly reappear like this? However, he stuck to his opinion, and after witnessing him fight, that was the most reasonable explanation. Others somewhat agreed. He did have the bearing of a flesh and blood Kaiser, didn't he? They kept praising Do-yun. Just now he was truly amazing, and if he claimed to be Kaiser, I'd believe it without doubt. He just smiled awkwardly, thinking to himself, oh man, but I really am Kaiser. Then a question was raised. Kaiser, did you just receive power from some mythic god? The damage you dealt was insane. Do-yun modestly replied again. It's all thanks to my talents. Besides, I was lucky enough to get another title. The more they heard, the more they admired him. He even has a title. Aren't you about to become a top-ranked expert? I need to befriend him right now. The party chatted for a while longer. Then Shieldesthebist suggested, all right, it looks like my HP has recovered. Shall we continue the hunt? Yubingong's momentum rose. Why don't we casually take down 10 more while we're at it? Seeing them so excited, Doyan had to agree. Sounds good. Yubingong loudly declared, let's move out. Shield bearers, we've got Big Bro Kaiser with us. Mihinchudi excitedly agreed, let's go. Only Doyan's expression changed. For the voice of past reflexes echoed, hurry up, earlier Keikaku Chicken and Purpletaste were noisily arguing, but first we need to gather the necessary supplies. After all, Kaiser will handle everything, he's an expert. Keem was annoyed by that attitude. These people are ranked too, you know. Keikaku Chicken snapped back, what a ranker like you acting smug. The Sword Emperor grew angrier. What did you say? Who are you talking about? Doyan looked up at the sky and wondered, so what, doesn't he know what the others are doing? Unexpectedly, another info window appeared before him. Urgent quest, mutated goblin blood, rarity, rare. Quest giver, Kalda, an alchemist who has lived for centuries. Recently, he has been quietly observing the mutated goblins and seems to have discovered something to aid him. Collect fresh blood from the mutated goblin warrior lurking in the caves of Ard Forest. Kill mutated goblin warrior 01. Mutated goblin warrior blood 01. Completion reward, 1 gold. A certain amount of experience and a silver ring crafted by Kalda himself. Failure penalty, Kalda's favor may decrease. No time limit. Doyan's expression shifted. A mutated goblin warrior. Doyan's party quickly arrived at a huge cave entrance. Yubingong was the first to speak. I'm really nervous. Mihinchudi agreed, me too. Hearing this, Doyan reflected. Feeling anxious now was understandable. He recalled what had happened before they arrived here. By hunting extra monsters on the way, they learned this dungeon's nickname was. The party, Shieldesthebist level 9, Mihinchudi level 9, Yubingong level 9, Kaiser level 9. The newbie destroyer. The comments were noisy. How the hell do you kill that mutated goblin warrior? I just failed my 3rd try. Do they really stand a chance? It can be defeated if you carefully follow the guide. No way, I did follow it. It's terrifyingly hard. One small mistake and the whole party dies. What's the point then? Reading this, Doyan could confirm this was a dungeon where players would likely die the first time they entered. They entered with the resolve to taste a real raid-like fight. At Ard Tomb, none of the names given to it sounded hopeful at all. They were greeted by goblin warriors. Compared to hunting ordinary goblin packs, the challenge here was clearly much greater. This instance even had its own unique mechanics that demanded extremely tight team coordination. When combined with those factors, another party stomped out in frustration as Doyan's group entered. No wonder this place was called the Newbie Grinder. Comments erupted. Oh my god, can we even beat this? They should have designed it to be soloable. I want to punch the people in that party every time they mess things up. Mihinchudi listened and muttered that it really did seem extremely arduous. Shieldesthebist replied with determination. It's hard, but we have to get through it. If we can't clear this, we won't have any chance to join upcoming raids. Doyan hadn't taken his eyes off his teammates the whole time. He was right. He recalled forum discussions. Even companies and organizations follow forum rules when choosing members. Guild Plus recruitment required having defeated a goblin warrior, hero rank or higher, level 10, 24 views. Guild Umbrella required clearing goblin warrior. Game Galler search 2359 views. Gable recruitment required killing goblin warrior. Game Galler search 15,578 views. So would they choose someone from a different game? Some members asked, do we absolutely have to kill that goblin warrior? If not, you won't be able to join any guild or team. Can't we just lie and say we beat it? Are they really asking why we can't fabricate? Don't you know everything is recorded in the adventure book? Various topics about this goblin warrior kept popping up. It's so maddening, quit the game. Your intelligence is probably on par with that goblin. Those petty tricks won't work in TCT. Then someone mentioned the appearance of an item, the adventure book. Inside that adventure book were many things, from material quests to discovering new lands and even defeating bosses. One could say every activity players performed in the TCT world was recorded in the adventure book. Over time, once there was a long list of defeated bosses, it might be different, but to join boss hunting teams in the next city, players had no choice but to grit their teeth and overcome this challenge. As Doyan entered, he thought to himself that the boss in the next city was a mandatory target to defeat, unlike Ard. After walking a bit further, he stopped. Before them stood a giant gate displaying information. Dwelling of the rare mutated goblin warrior. Party instance. Boss is solo. Description. Once a legendary brave green goblin until cursed and driven out by its tribe. Limit. 4 players. Requirement. Under level 10. Doyan then turned around and declared, then shall we enter. The others, though worried, agreed. Okay, I'm ready. Mihinchudi even added, I've studied the strategy guide over 10 times. I'll do my best not to make any mistakes. But just after they spoke, the air suddenly fell silent. The four of them stared at each other until Shieldisthebist remembered his role. He stepped forward, placed a hand on the door, and announced, Then I'll go in now. A system notice quickly appeared. Party leader Shieldisthebist requests to enter the mutated goblin warrior's dwelling. Do you agree? This time Yubingong loudly shouted, Let's go. Mihinchudi also resolved to advance. Doyan, visibly delighted, agreed. System messages continued to appear, checking party member count and verifying level at the gate. After successful confirmation, the door opened for them, and they entered the mutated goblin warrior's territory. Excitement showed more and more on Doyan's face. After not using his hands for a while, he needed to get moving a bit. The group stood at the entrance, respectfully observing the surroundings, then slowly moved forward. The torches on the walls were all lit at once. The target to be conquered quickly appeared. Mutated Goblin Warrior HP 20,002-0000. Elite Boss Title, Goblin Type. Mutated Warrior. Physically enhanced to extreme levels. Once the greatest of the tribe, but a curse changed his skin and stole his mind. He was exiled after committing a frenzied massacre. This goblin warrior had a grimacing smile on its face. It let out a menacing roar. The ceiling shook as a result. Shieldisthebist observed and remarked, So this is indeed an elite boss. Mihinchudi couldn't help feeling a little worried about this, until Doyan's voice rang out, It's charging. The goblin warrior targeted them and attacked. At the same time, Shieldisthebist commented that no matter how skilled Kaiser was, he couldn't protect all three of them. Shieldisthebist then looked over the other two party members, at least. Finally, he decided he needed to perform well himself. The goblin warrior continued to flaunt its strength. A command was issued. Everyone scatter quickly. They rapidly moved in different directions. As he moved, Shieldisthebist carefully watched for the first mechanic. The charge. No sooner had he thought it than the goblin warrior lunged forward. Its head struck the rock. A system message appeared. Mutated goblin warrior stunned for 2 seconds. Yubingong and Mihinchudi took advantage of the opening to cast spells. Their attacks hit the mark. However, the goblin warrior was unfazed. Shieldisthebist's eyes widened as a result. He gritted his teeth as he looked at the greatsword in its hands. The goblin warrior struck down with a blow. Shieldisthebist struggled to block it. He even activated his guardian passive skill. A system message appeared. Defense, vitality, and stamina stats increase when allies stand behind you. Shieldisthebist turned back and signaled, I've drawn its attention. A blue light appeared as Doyan launched his attack. The goblin warrior cried out in pain after taking that full hit. An explosion occurred almost immediately. This made Shieldisthebist pleased. Great, everything's progressing very well. At this rate, we can safely get through Phase 1. From behind, Yubingong loudly signaled that the next mechanic was about to trigger. But everyone knew that theoretically, that mechanic only appears when its HP drops to 10,000. And the goblin's HP was currently 20,99982. Shieldisthebist stared in bewilderment as the monster prepared to unleash an attack. However, Doyan acted in time. He closed the distance and struck it in the blink of an eye. The goblin warrior roared in pain as it was gravely wounded. Even Shieldisthebist was equally surprised. Doyan didn't stop there. A smug smile crossed his face as he declared he'd handled the mechanic. The two of them sat on a stone bench. The reporter said, Sir Kaiser, your team has conquered the toughest dungeons today. You are hailed as a member of the strongest team ever. Could you reveal the secret to your success? Doyan smiled brightly and replied, Our secret. Perhaps everyone simply played to their strengths to the fullest. She wrote down everything he said in a small notebook and chatted with him. Typically, a standard team composition includes 4 key roles: tank, damage, healer, and support. She asked, One thing puzzles me. Your team seems to lack a tank. Is it feasible to raid without that role? On that point, Doyan pondered. A tank, huh? They certainly play a very important role. Doyan had also considered recruiting someone for that huge role no one else filled. Someone to face the boss directly, intercept its attacks, and absorb all the damage. An essential responsibility. Because he felt he was the missing piece, he said he took on the role himself. This unexpected answer left the reporter wide-eyed and speechless. Wait, what? Doyan only smiled inwardly and glanced at her. In a recent battle, their team had to deal with a fierce, long-nosed goblin. Even Shieldisthebist couldn't have expected it. How was that possible? It was Doyan who charged alone and defeated it. Even seasoned players found it hard to stop its attacks with crowd control, yet he broke that attack pattern without using any crowd control skill. He only wielded a small sword, and each slash was a critical hit. Moreover, he was in the damage role. Even with its giant sword, the goblin did nothing to Do-yeon. It screamed ferociously in frustration, but he showed no fear and charged forward full of vigor. Such an attack was nothing. One slash from him sealed its limb. The whole team was joyful and astonished. Yu Bingong praised Do-yeon nonstop. "Oh my, look how he targets the weak points. It's insane, terrifying, he even blocked its strike just now." Suddenly Shieldus Thebest flinched when he saw the goblin's health had dropped dramatically after just a few slashes from Do-yeon. The boss's HP was down to 20%. Seeing the moment was ripe, he ordered the team forward. Phase 2 was about to begin. Everyone prepare for the next assault. Yu Bingong had his bow ready. Mihinchudi held her staff prepared. At that moment the system notified. The mutated goblin warrior's HP had fallen below 20%. This mutated goblin warrior was triggering its trait. The goblin's muscles bulged with veins as it transformed to grow stronger. They readied themselves for a decisive fight. The system announced that the warrior trait had been activated. The goblin roared savagely, shaking the land, and the system kept posting updates. All its stats skyrocketed, and it entered a berserk state. The mutation trait began to take effect. Do-yeon assumed a stance to utterly crush it. Come on. The goblin was now manifesting its mutation trait, an abnormal power that grants a unique skill to each boss. The power bestowed on this mutated goblin warrior was a rule. It's also called 73. The system continuously analyzed. If physical damage is dealt 4 times in a row or more, the entire team will suffer a negative effect. If magic damage is dealt 3 times in a row or more, all attacks will be reflected back at the player. When it howled in waves, a strange heat emanated from within it, pushing them back a little. Due to the warrior trait's berserk state, all players' attack and movement speeds were reduced by 4%. Yu Bingong spoke up. "Just dealing with this monster is exhausting enough. Now there's also a weakening effect." But only Do-yeon was unaffected. The hero trait had blocked the mental corruption. The berserk effect was nullified, and he was completely immune to the mutation's influence. When he realized his inner power, it erupted into murderous intent. That meant those negative effects had no hold on him, right? Shieldus Thebest, seeing the two of them worried, tried to calm them. "Everyone stay calm and don't accidentally attack it. Focus entirely on evasion at all costs." Yu Bingong cooperated. "We understand." Then he suddenly remembered and turned to ask Do-yeon about the situation. "You have no objections to this, do you, Kaiser?" But Do-yeon was unnaturally calm. He told them to wait here a moment. This stance baffled Shieldus Thebest. "What did you say?" Suddenly sparks of blood appeared in Do-yeon's eyes and murderous intent flared over him. He sneered and said, "I'll go up and handle it." This action left Shieldus Thebest unable to believe his eyes. In an instant, Do-yeon darted up to the very foot of the monster. It thought a single strike would crush him, so it laughed triumphantly. However, it was mistaken. He used only the tiny sword in his hand to block its massive blade. Do-yeon's eyes blazed. In less than a second, he slashed countless times across the goblin's body, and it screamed in agony. Yu Bingong wondered why control effects didn't touch him. Mihinchudi also found it strange, while the rest of them were suffering from abnormal statuses. Everything happened too fast. Shieldus Thebest couldn't believe Do-yeon's extraordinary ability. What the hell is happening? Wasn't he just known as a damage-dealing god before? He looked up with his mouth agape, and right now, he resembled nothing less than. No matter how many times the goblin slashed, it couldn't stop Do-yeon from attacking. Do-yeon's demeanor now was no different from a true god of war. He slashed one side of its neck. It groaned with low, pained sound, then struck again from behind. In Shieldus Thebest's eyes, Do-yeon now seemed like a player who could hack the game. "ID Kaiser. You have leveled up successfully. Your swordsmanship proficiency level has increased. Your swordsmanship rank has reached level 7. Thanks to level 7 swordsmanship, sword damage is increased by 7%. The goblin charged madly, furious, and rained slashes on Do-yeon. He merely glared and, with lightning-fast reflexes, swung his sword and struck it precisely. Not once but repeatedly without tiring, each cut accurate to the millimeter. Another strike, then another. The system busily announced achievement. "You have leveled up successfully. Your swordsmanship proficiency level has increased. Your swordsmanship rank has reached level 7. The goblin was beaten beyond resistance. Thanks to the Fury effect, you deal an additional 10% damage to boss-type entities." Do-yeon leapt up and delivered a final strike. Before it could react, he had circled behind and cut down. Thanks to the Fury effect, you deal an additional 10% damage to boss-type entities. Do-yeon's eyes burned red as he poured all his strength into this cut. One blow slammed into its back. The goblin screamed as if its flesh were being torn, blood spraying everywhere. Then it collapsed to the ground and died. The system immediately announced, "You have successfully defeated the mutated goblin warrior. This dungeon has been officially conquered. Yubingong widened his eyes in disbelief. Mihinchudi was equally shocked. Shieldisthebist, sweating, said, I was talking about him, Kaiser. Yubingong, puzzled, asked him, is there something wrong with... He still hadn't recovered, his head full of questions. Could he actually be the real Lord Kaiser? This statement surprised both of them. What? Everyone watched Doyun's every move carefully. Doyun stood on the dead goblin's back, radiating victory. A system panel appeared. Completion time calculated, 29 minutes 58 seconds. Current ranking, first Team Super 29:58, second Anonymous Team 35:11, third Team Massacre 42:12, fourth Other Teams 44:07. He planted his sword and listened as the system continued to analyze. You have reclaimed first place on the time leaderboard. Additional rewards will be distributed based on contribution. Kaiser, Shieldisthebist, Mihinchudi, Yubingong. Then items slowly appeared. The top contributor's gift was sent. You received the Mutated Goblin Warrior's red leather armor. You received the Mutated Goblin Warrior's red gloves. You received the Mutated Goblin Warrior's great bloodsword weapon. You earned the title Throne of the Time Race, a prestigious title for the speedrun leader. Effect: whenever a new record is set, all stats permanently increase corresponding to that achievement. Speed up: the time race is an endless chase between hunter and prey. The throne holder must always move faster, plus 10% to all speed, bonus stats from the current record, plus 5 to all attributes. Doyun grinned smugly. Just as I predicted, these goblins. His snickering smile made people both fearful and fascinated, only beautiful when they're chopped to pieces. Yubingong couldn't help exclaiming, good heavens, isn't this a hero-tier title? Mihinchudi's eyes sparkled. These bonus stats are truly rare. He thanked him profusely. Many thanks, big bro. Without you we couldn't have dreamed of such rewards. She added, thank you so much, Kaiser. Doyun smiled kindly and said, it's nothing. Suddenly someone called out, Kaiser. Shieldisthebist looked at him, head slightly bowed, and asked, could you actually check the names just registered on the leaderboard? The system displayed the leaderboard. Current rankings. First, Shieldisthebist's Team 29:58. Second, Team 35:11. Third, Massacre 42:12. Fourth, Other Teams 44:07. 10th, Slayer's Team 46:35. Shieldisthebist, remorseful, told Doyun, I should have changed the team's name earlier. He stammered and bowed. I'm really sorry, sir. Doyun scratched his ear and gave a wry smile, inwardly thinking that being listed as number 1 was an enormous privilege. The red banner unfurled in his mind. Now they might even be invited by top 10 guilds, thanks to the glorious achievements they'd just earned. Looking at Shieldisthebist's face now, Doyun felt that even if this was just a beginner city's dungeon, holding the top spot was still a significant achievement. He remembered that silhouette with the blazing golden eyes, and more than that, standing even above Massacre. Shieldisthebist apologized to Doyun once more. I'm very sorry for accidentally causing you trouble. If you want compensation, whether money or anything else, just ask, and I'll do my best to repay you. The corner of Doyun's mouth twitched into a smile as he calmly said it's fine. Shieldisthebist was very surprised to hear that. Doyun explained it was an accident. Anyway, the system automatically used the captain's name to register the ranking, and I didn't think I'd get first place. Doyun unconsciously felt relieved. Let it be, it's just a name displayed on a list. Spotlight and attention only tire me more. Then a greedy smile appeared on his face. Doyun thought the only thing he cared about was the reward. The system immediately announced the information of a greatsword. Doyun looked for a moment and wondered if this equipment set was called the Warrior Set. He analyzed in his head that the qualities ranged from rare to rare plus. These were the best items players at the current level could possess. His pupils contracted, the satisfied smile reappeared in his mind, and a sneering thought flashed. I got such awesome items, how could I be upset? Thinking and smiling, he seemed to forget the presence of those around him, making Doyun look like a madman laughing to himself. Shieldisthebist worriedly asked if he was really okay. Once again the demon seized his mind. He snapped back to awareness and opened his eyes as if not understanding what had happened until now. Then he waved his hand and laughed, speaking normally. Yes, I'm fine, so don't feel too guilty. Yubingong saluted solemnly as if obeying orders and thanked Doyun. Thank you, boss. I will be absolutely loyal to you from now on. Mihinchudi hailed and praised Kaiser as number 1. Only Shieldisthebist remained lost in thought. He was really on a completely different level. The system announced the dungeon session would end shortly. Suddenly, a powerful blue light appeared and formed a 3-dimensional spatial portal. Shieldisthebist turned and said, Hey Wujin. Yubingong replied, What's up? Shieldisthebist confessed frankly that when reading the online praises of Kaiser, he thought people were exaggerating. He admitted, but now I understand. Shieldesthebist watched Doyun's back and said, for sure this is Kaiser's true power. Doyun turned and asked, aren't you going to proceed? Shieldesthebist flustered, yes, I'm coming right now. Shieldesthebist quickly stepped in. Then everyone entered the spatial gate together. The mana source teleported them elsewhere. They arrived at a back alley of the city. They entered an item shop. Yubingong exclaimed that it looked completely different from the outside. Mihinchudi gaped in curiosity. It's like magic. How can the scenery be so different? Doyun looked around and was unconsciously drawn to something. At the counter stood a figure wrapped in a cloak and scarf, face concealed. He seemed to be the shop owner but wasn't very friendly to customers. He growled, who are you? I am the alchemist Kalda. Yubingong said cautiously that the man looked quite scary. Mihinchudi agreed, looking like a pervert. Shieldesthebist signaled them to be quiet. Don't judge someone by their appearance. The man said, I hope you're not here to surrender. Kalda added that many people are waiting to be saved, but I still need more blood to continue my research. Doyun slammed a vial of potion onto the table. Inside was a red liquid. The man froze and said, is this the blood of the mutated goblin warrior? Kalda went mad, you found it. It's only been about 40 minutes since then. Doyun replied calmly, what you say is completely correct. Kalda showed admiration. Unbelievable, you defeated that mutated monster so quickly. The system displayed the effect stat of the title. Goodwill was maxed from the start, and the friendliness stat rose significantly. Your affinity with Kalda increased. You have completed the quest named Blood of the Mutated Goblin Warrior. Images of the rewarded items appeared. 1 gold coin, a large amount of experience, and a silver ring crafted by Kalda. You leveled up. You continue to level up. Each member of the team was promoted in turn as their system kept announcing. You have passed Challenge O results for Challenge O will not be saved. You can now travel to the main continent. You received a low-tier skill draw token. You also received an additional random skill draw token for reaching level 10. Yubingong screamed with joy. Finally, the main continent were coming. Mihinchudi shouted even louder. Amazing, a stream of system images notified you that you earned a reward for meeting special conditions. You obtained a Rare Plus postcard with Kalda's pencil sketch and Kalda's signature, described as a postcard preserving his handwriting. Doyun looked at the reward and thought, a special gift, fine, I'll check that later. He clicked on a system menu. This is the most important part, the moment I've been waiting for since leaving Pantheon. A series of hidden cards appeared on the screen. Then they were released outward in beams of light. Each card hovered in the air. Doyun watched and thought that compared to Pantheon, this place seemed a bit less solemn. Suddenly he activated another skill shaped like a golden eye, and his eyes flared with a metallic gleam. The system announced the skill Eye of Truth was activated. He thought silently that since this was only a low-tier skill draw, the gold cards flying around weren't that remarkable. The system informed him he had learned the skill Charged Slash. Charged Slash, common, is limited to the swordsman class. You can dash in a chosen direction while performing a sword swing. The effect deals damage equal to 150% of attack power. Dash distance scales with movement speed. The higher the attack speed, the faster the skill triggers. Cooldown, 10 seconds. Doyun judged Charged Slash to be a decent skill. Doyun checked more info and smiled, recalling he used it often back in Temrok. Still, the prize he was truly aiming for was something else. Other cards were drawn from the system. Doyun thought one was a card that allows drawing a random skill from common up to legendary. The system asked if you want to use the random skill draw token now. Before he could react, the system announced your login time has expired. You will be logged out in 5 seconds. Doyun gasped, what? The game system explained this. A login time limit. This system is set to prevent players from becoming exhausted or addicted from immersing too long in this hyperreal virtual world. He realized he'd lost track of real time. 10 hours had passed. Only 3 seconds remained on the countdown. A card flashed. The system counted down to 2. He was so tense, sweat soaked his shirt. The cards shone brighter and the system hit the final second. Doyun, terrified, grabbed the system tablet as he began to fade from the area. The system announced your login duration has ended and is forcibly disconnected. After a moment, 1, 2, 3 cards appeared. Doyun watched the screen so nervously he was drenched in sweat. The cards emitted light as the system reached 1. Doyun screamed in horror. Your connection time has ended. The system is disconnected. At that moment in the cryo chamber, Doyun woke up after a long sleep, but he couldn't move to break free. After a while, he suddenly screamed pitifully. Time passed until the next morning. Doyun was so anxious that even his chair trembled violently. The clock now read 10 o'clock. He gritted his teeth and thought to himself, it succeeded. Then he returned to the cryo chamber and lay down in it. The system immediately analyzed and began retinal recognition, verifying ID card information. ID verification completed, and data synchronization finished, establishing connection to the game Ghost of Savior. Doyun's mind was transferred to another dimension. Welcome back to the paradise of adventures. May you have a truly exciting and memorable journey, the back alley of alley. The scene was an old town. Doyun stood awkwardly in a street corner. He was extremely tense as he stared at the system screen. I need to check this quickly. At that moment, I definitely saw a beam of golden light emanate, and the message showed a new unseen skill. Opening the skill vault revealed only the few cards from before. Doyun breathed a sigh of relief, so that's it. He had thought the glowing cards were problematic and kept worrying they'd be a legendary skill, but it wasn't what he expected. Anyway, his luck with drops had been pretty good lately. At the same time, Doyun also gained a new skill, Backstab Heroic, limited to the assassin class. Description: approach from behind to disrupt and deal massive damage. Effect: teleport behind the target within a certain range. The enemy is marked for a duration, and the skill can be reactivated once before the mark fades. When reused, the player closes in again and delivers a critical strike based on damage accumulated on the mark. Cooldown: 50 seconds. He was a bit surprised by this humble technique, Backstab Hub. This old town is always full of assassins. This is an exclusive signature move that made assassins feared, and it's why ranged players always dread facing them. They can strike at any time. Even if you try to keep a safe distance, this overpowered skill can close that gap in an instant. Yet such a dangerous skill ended up with Doyun. He felt smug as soon as he realized it, but why did it fall into my hand? If I collect a few more things like this, his smile grew grotesque as increasingly malicious thoughts filled his head. Whether dueling people or hunting monsters, I'll surely become a perfect damage dealer, able to crush anything. At that moment, two soldiers, a man and a woman, were walking and talking. I've studied all the guides thoroughly, so let me handle it. Really? Of course. The young man suddenly spotted Doyun. He was so delusional his head seemed about to explode. He staggered unsteadily. Doyun exhaled a puff of smoke. His eyes were bloodshot, looking like a demon from hell. Doyun's bizarre appearance frightened the two of them. The young man said, "That guy seems kind of insane," and the girl agreed, "We should take another route to be safe." Then they ran off like dogs being chased. Only then did Doyun become aware that he was standing there. Not knowing why they ran, he looked at the system's screen, inwardly pleased. At least I got a new skill. Should I try equipping the items I just received? In his inventory were various pieces of armor. The red leather of the mutated goblin warrior, the pauldrons of the mutated goblin warrior, the greatsword of the mutated goblin warrior, and the silver ring refined by Kalda. With this gear, I won't look like a weakling anymore. Doyun didn't hesitate and equipped everything immediately. He was itching to fight. Well then, let's move to the main continent. The system obliged. You will be teleported to Raven, the first city of the main continent. Once you set foot on the main continent, you will no longer be able to return to Al. A blue energy gate opened and the countdown began. 5. Doyun looked back at the town one last time. He had left just yesterday without saying goodbye to anyone. He quietly thanked his companions in this session, Shieldus Thebist, Yubingong, and Mihinchudi. He'd already grown a bit attached to them. There was a twinge of regret, but the clock kept counting down. 2. Doyun brushed it aside. Whatever will be, will be. If fate allows, we'll meet again. He stepped forward as the system announced it was initiating transfer to the main continent. Doyun was transported through the main gate into a large square. All players who finished training at RANKER carry great expectations for their first steps onto the main continent. People were chatting happily. He noticed this was different from Alley, which was split into regional servers. This was where players from everywhere gathered to form parties together. Seeing the landscape ahead and the challenges waiting, Doyun was ready to take his first starting point of the journey. Raven, the starter city. Suddenly soldiers shouted for everyone to clear the way. The Knights of Raven had returned, after completing their mission with distinction. One captive was being led inbound. "Let me go at once," someone shouted. The soldier snapped, "Stand still, you unashamed scoundrel." The system presented a quest to Doyun. Upon entering the main continent, locked systems will be unlocked, and newbie bonuses will officially disappear. Instead, you can experience more features like the arena, friendly matches, and crafting workshops. Raven is the emblematic city for the start of a new journey. Enjoy the adventure on the new stage opening on the main continent. Tip: if you become a victim of a crime in Raven, don't hesitate to report it to the guards. After reading this, Doyun was a little surprised. It's true that the game really begins once you step onto the main continent. Suddenly, a fat man appeared offering him a taste of Raven's famous beer. "Hey brother, try some beer. Your red outfit really suits you." A seafood shop owner and a professional-looking chef also invited him to try their food. "Drop by our shop when you have time. We'll give you plenty of promotional gifts." For a man, nothing beats a hot bowl of guinea pig soup. Do-yun sighed, thinking he now understood why so many players forget hunting to spend time sightseeing in this city. He instinctively replied, "Sounds great." But he had main tasks to complete. Do-yun slapped his face to wake up. "Stay focused. Enjoyment can wait." He drew his sword, thinking, "I'll go hunting for a bit now." There were only goblins around here, and he wiped them all out. Now Do-yun was on the Raven Plains, fighting the goblins blocking his path. The system busily tallied points, activating the warrior set attributes. Intimidation effect against goblin types. Against goblins, you deal an extra 7% damage and gain 2 points to all stats. Do-yun grew stronger and more confident. No gear was better for dealing with goblins than this set. The system also analyzed the goblins applying intimidation to enemies thanks to the warrior set's properties. The red goblin was terrified, and the green goblin's fighting spirit had completely collapsed. Do-yun deployed Charged Slash. Without much effort, he could cleave the goblin mob to pieces in an instant. The system scored again, adding bonus damage from the warrior set's effect. You have slain the red goblin. You have successfully eliminated the green goblin. After a while, Do-yun's feet touched the ground, at most 10 seconds. His speed was so fast they couldn't land a single counterattack, and instead collapsed in heap. The system awarded item points. The greatsword's attack power increased after finishing an enemy. Do-yun grinned with satisfaction. This feeling was exhilarating. The warrior set was truly top tier. He thought to himself that the set already had very high base stats, and now granted an extra 7% damage, a weapon that grows stronger with each hunt. Luck kept coming in waves, making him euphoric like fireworks. It felt so good to trounce low-level monsters. Do-yun looked at the board and smiled. His quests were progressing smoothly. With a bit more effort, he'd level up in no time. Suddenly, his predatory instincts flared as he noticed something off. What was that? He glanced over and saw an invisible figure rushing in, holding a knife. Do-yun found it strange. Was that a human? The figure lunged to stab Do-yun, thinking, "Isn't that the warrior set? There's no better prey than a newly geared, wealthy soldier." The knife in his hand froze for a moment, so then, Do-yun just stood still as he charged like lightning. "Thanks for the hearty meal." But he didn't expect Do-yun to merely tilt his sword and parry the blow. The stealth seal on him was broken. Do-yun's murderous aura flared. He glared at him and said, "What the hell is this?" Assassination Boy saw Do-yun's advantage and jumped back away. Unexpectedly, he had accomplices. "What are you doing, you bastards? Finish him off quickly." From above, an archer dove in, but swift as lightning, he sliced 2 of its arrows out of the air. Another man wielding an axe crazily charged forward. Do-yun blocked it with his sword and knocked him flying to one side. In a flash, he spun his sword-holding hand, then cut the attacker down on the spot so he couldn't dodge. "Tree it then and..." Assassination Boy stood frozen at the scene. Damn it. Assassination Boy gritted his teeth wanting to flee, thinking this made no sense. How could a newly joined soldier do this? But unlucky for him, Do-yun had activated a skill. A mark had been created on the target. When he turned around, Do-yun was already standing in front of him waiting. Do-yun merely slung the sword over his shoulder, yet his presence soared like a hellish god rising. He chuckled and greeted cheerfully, "Are you lost?" To Do-yun, wherever you go there will always be people who won't listen, and in the game world this was no exception. The arena scene that appeared wasn't official matches, but illegal slaughtering. In other words, they were called slaughter peaker. They had appeared in Temrok and were now rampaging in God of Savior. Some did it for fun, others to loot or vent anger. No matter the reason, ask 10 people and 9 will say the most hated are those who hunt newcomers. Do-yun believed they usually targeted those who had just left the newbie village to kill them and steal all their belongings. Just like the guy standing in his way at that moment. His eyes flared with a cruel light. He smiled and asked, "Are you lost?" His system notified that the mark had vanished. Assassination Boy looked up in terrified confusion. Was backstab a skill? Fear filled his gaze. How on earth could a swordsman perform that move? In an instant, that man had been eliminated. Do-yun's system announced, "You have slain the player named Assassination Boy. You have defeated the player named Triat then." Do-yun continued eliminating them. Notifications rang out repeatedly. "You have slain the player Canthatme." These players were classified by the system as evildoers. Your actions are deemed justified self-defense. Karma points will not increase. He looked and thought this operated exactly like Temrok. Do-yun's expression was oddly calm. Perhaps newbie privileges were merely exceptions. Do-yun remembered his former teammates and how unusually kind people there had been. He looked at the bodies sprawled before him. In reality, this place was always full of such scoundrels. Holding the item, Do-yun didn't dwell on it. First, he needed to claim the quest rewards. The system chimed, "You have completed the Goblin Extermination quest. Reward, 70 silver and experience points. You have completed the Hunter's Request quest. You receive an additional 80 silver, experience points, and a beast-slaying necklace. Your level has increased. To level 17, the path to the west gate has opened. The final gate had opened. He smiled triumphantly. He'd finally reached the west gate. Do-yun surveyed the area and identified it as Raven's western forest region. He gathered information and learned this hunting ground was one even NPCs warned about. This place was the complete opposite of the East Gate, a dense forest with limited visibility, teeming with goblins and giant insects. Sudden ambushes by goblin mobs, scenes of other warriors fighting goblins and large wasp-like beasts. An insect wasp attacks striking from hidden nooks between rocks and tree trunks. Do-yun understood the danger here well. Thus the western forest was extremely harsh, and a rule gradually formed. Form parties of at least 3 people. Right now, in front of Raven's west gate, many collaborators were bustlingly gathering to form teams. They shouted for others to join. 1 tank and 2 DPS are waiting. Someone else was looking for an additional melee damage dealer. Another pleaded urgently for help to clear this area. Another team was stuck, giving the leader a headache. We only lack 1 healer. Their numbers were truly too few. The blonde with folded arms looked annoyed. Healer players were rare. Few enjoyed playing that role, and leveling was extremely arduous. The big black-haired guy suddenly pointed toward the gate. "Hey, look at that guy," he sneered. "Another fool just arrived. There will always be a few types like him." Do-yun's silhouette stood out in the crowd, drawing attention even from afar. The light brown-haired guy also judged him with contempt. Unbelievable, even top-ranked players had to team up before entering the West Forest. They clustered together to gossip. Who does he think he is going alone? Do-yun heard everything but just sneered at them. At that moment, in the middle of the dense wild forest, red covered the entire sky. A decisive slash into a goblin ripped the silence apart. The system announced you had slain a red goblin in the woods. Do-yun charged on with the greatsword, swinging and killing goblins wherever he struck. One jumped down from above. Unlucky for it, he had time to plant his sword in the ground, then roll around to land behind. After that, he kicked it far away with a single foot. The goblin tumbled several times and nearly slammed headfirst into the ground. It struggled painfully to stand up, but before it could do anything, he cut it down. Suddenly, he noticed something flying toward him from behind. Do-yun turned and swung his sword to take out the arrow. The goblin archer in the tree was startled by his quickness. Before it could flee, he rushed at it with the great blade in hand. The huge blade swept through, severing its upper body. Looking back, only its lower torso remained, still lunging forward. The greatsword flew out of his hands and fell to the ground from the force. Red goblins, seemingly countless, appeared from nowhere. Seeing he was weaponless, the system warned of danger. The warrior set's effects have been disabled. They recklessly charged like raiders. Do-yun handled them calmly. For these lousy monsters, he didn't need the full set. He still had a hand axe. The system reported weapon restrictions were lifted thanks to the Weapon Master title. Basic weapon skills unlocked by the Adventurer trait. A skill opened, and it was performing backstab. He lunged at a speed faster than light and was instantly behind the goblin. He delivered a decisive cut to finish it. The system announced you just used the hand axe basic skill named Smack. The others surged forward in waves. He didn't move from his spot and held his ground. With one hand, Do-yun swung the axe and wiped them all out. Each goblin was cut cleanly with a single strike. Do-yun laughed with satisfaction. Using the hand axe felt pretty great. The system chimed. You have slain another red goblin of the woods. Notifications of kills kept coming. You eliminated yet another red goblin. The sight of red goblins fallen on the ground was pitiful. The system reported your mastery of the hand axe increased to level 2. He went to pick up his greatsword. Do-yun checked his stats, items, and rewards, smiling faintly. The goblin hunt quest was complete. Now it was time to find the pendant, and before he finished thinking that, Do-yun sensed danger and turned around. A giant killer beast suddenly appeared. It growled and spat viscous slime around. Do-yun's face instantly went pale and slack. The surrounding scene fell into strange chaos. Birds scattered in a panic everywhere, and forest centipedes were now frenziedly charging. It targeted Do-yun directly. Seeing that, he roared. Without hesitation, Do-yun drew his sword as fast as lightning. A red gleam flashed in his eyes as he glanced toward the killer beast. At that moment, its eyes also flared red as it let out a roar. Do-yun wasted no time and swung his sword powerfully down at the beast's body. Immediately, it sprayed a strange liquid from its mouth. The killer beast slammed into the ground, producing a thunderous sound. Do-yun remained on guard, staring intently at it. Suddenly, the beast sprang up, its eyes burning as it targeted him. Do-yun was momentarily startled at the sight. Before he could react, the killer beast lunged to attack Do-yun. Luckily, he reacted in time, raising his blade to block. Do-yun stared at it with a grave expression. Suddenly, Do-yun summoned another weapon and muttered irritably, "You're ugly and filthy. Why do you keep shoving that face so close to me?" With that, he struck the beast in the face. It howled in pain. Taking advantage of the opening, he aimed straight at it, then delivered a fatal downward slash. After that strike, it showed no sign of life and rolled onto the ground. Immediately, the system displayed a series of notifications. You have slain a giant killer beast. Your swordsmanship mastery rose to level 10. You have leveled up. Do-yun exhaled sharply. He drove his sword hard into the ground. The system panel kept appearing. Player Kaiser level 19, HP 17350. Final Profession Adventurer, Title 3, Maximal Favor from the Start, First Slayer. The Throne of the Speed Race, Strength 35 plus 38, Agility 35 plus 37, Stamina 5 plus 37, Perception 22 plus 36, Amount 5 plus 34, so I've gained 2 more levels. Do-yun pondered the notifications before him. Though the process was arduous, this leveling pace was fairly decent. Most quests had been cleared. He propped his hand on his chin, thinking the only thing left was, then the system sent a new notification. Pendant lost, common rank. Description: a request from Camellia, a girl whose precious pendant was stolen by an anonymous cat. Help her recover it outside the West Gate. The lost pendants are multiple. Reward on completion: 1 gold, some experience, and a small gift from Camellia. Penalty on failure: Camellia's favor may decrease. Time remaining, 124. Do-yun was amazed to receive this quest. It was the only one with common rank. Upon receiving the quest, Do-yun said indifferently that it really wasn't that difficult. Its location was already marked clearly on the map, so his job was simply to go there and pick it up. With that, he left. The next day, chatter and announcements rang out. Please line up neatly. Everyone's in a hurry, so no cutting in line. Suddenly, a man shouted aggressively, "Hey, don't shove people like that." The person opposite retorted, "I didn't push you. Why are you saying that?" Do-yun looked around, puzzled. Could that tree over there be where the pendant would reappear? Luckily, the waiting line wasn't as long as he thought. If it had been busier, he'd have waited much longer for his turn. Suddenly, Do-yun heard a voice from afar. "Hey, have you heard about the killer targeting low-level hunters?" He glanced toward the 2 men standing not far away. Could that be the damn assassin? "I know him. He runs wild and now he must pay." The blonde, after hearing the dark-haired man, replied, "I heard he keeps babbling about someone named Kaiser, right?" Hearing that, Do-yun frowned and wondered to himself why his name was being dragged into this. The 2 continued talking, unaware of Do-yun's presence. Is that person real? He's probably just an obsessed fan. I mean, who would believe the absurd claim that a swordsman can use an assassin's backstab skill? No fool would believe that wild story. Hearing them, he felt uneasy and thought maybe he should stay silent and keep a low profile for a while. Do-yun's gaze darkened as he pondered. A swordsman who can master assassin skills and possess 6 different traits. Major guilds would never leave someone like that alone. He imagined worst-case scenarios. Some factions might try to recruit him, and the number of people wanting to eliminate him before he grows stronger would certainly rise. Especially if leading guilds include many former Temrok members. If they can't possess him, they'll do everything to destroy him. That's their modus operandi. After a short rest, Do-yun found the pendant. The system quickly appeared. You have successfully collected the lost pendant in front of you. Please deliver this pendant to Camellia directly. Do-yun clenched the pendant in his hand. It was still too soon to reveal himself. Cut to Raven, a clear voice rang out. "Oh my, this is exactly my pendant. Thank you so much. Without your help, I would never have found it." Camellia looked at him with grateful, shining eyes. Simultaneously, the system announced, "You have successfully completed the lost pendant quest. Rewards: 1 gold, experience, and a small gift from Camellia. You have leveled up to 20 and received a random skill token." Suddenly, Camellia presented a box to Do-yun and said gently, "This is the treasure I value most, but because you're so kind, I'll give it to you." The system analyzed the gift. Camellia collects odd items. This random box contains the most valuable piece in her collection. Nobody knows what's truly inside. Common rank. Do-yun bowed slightly and ruffled her hair. "All right, thanks. Next time be careful and don't lose it." Camellia obediently replied, "Yes, thank you very much." The girl's face showed obvious joy. The system then sent many notifications. The max favor from start title effect activated. Current favor surged dramatically. Camellia's favor toward you skyrocketed. After handing the pendant to Camellia, Do-yun left. "Goodbye." He smiled faintly at her, perhaps because she's young. Her favor increased so quickly. Walking, he thought to himself that it was time to tackle the next quest. The system sent him a quest: conquer the dungeon, rare rank. Description: Zirina, wary of the western forest, fears monsters will grow stronger if the dungeon is left abandoned. Location: outside the West Gate 01. Rewards: 10 gold, large experience, and a low-tier skill token. Penalty: Zirina may be disappointed. Time limit: 48 hours. Doyan thought he couldn't miss such a lucrative quest since it included a skill token. Doyan recalled that, for Westgate dungeons, 2 locations stood out most: the Goblin Leader's Lair and the Ant Tunnel. His expression darkened slightly. Given his warrior set, the Goblin Dungeon would offer more advantage, but oddly both places require team entry. If he could avoid it, he preferred not to reveal his special abilities too early. At the Goblin Leader's Lair, people shouted over one another. Looking for mages here, fire mages preferred, only accepting those level 20 and above. Buying all kinds of items at top market prices. On-site weapon repairs available. Anyone need repairs? Doyan approached and scanned the area. Even production-class players had gathered here. Just then a man stepped forward and told a soldier, "I'm a thief." The soldier refused. "Our group doesn't take thieves. Know your limits, please." Another soldier objected. "Isn't sharing the goal of killing the goblin leader enough?" But the man insisted, "No, it's better if you don't show up here at all." At that moment people near Mayan surrounded and pleaded, "Mage, please join our party. We're all level 20 with good gear. Come with us." "Come with us, miss." Doyan observed the scene and judged that they were just lurking to find mages. It's understandable. In God of Savior, a job's value is dictated by a boss's traits. In this dungeon, mages are kings and gods, while swordsmen are treated as disposable. So no one pays them any mind. Thinking this, his face fell. Then a voice called out, "Hey, brother in the warrior set." In a friendly tone, "If you haven't found a team yet, would you like to come with us?" Doyan looked at the man blankly. "You know I'm just a swordsman, right?" Bastard Sword, the paladin, and the mage smiled at Doyan. "Of course we know. Our speed is high, and we're doing this for a quest, so your class doesn't matter much." He thought carefully. Something felt off. Should he play along with them a bit and see? After thinking, Doyan scratched his head and said, "I'd appreciate it if you let me join." The paladin immediately replied, "I'll send you an invite now." A notification appeared instantly. A party with player Bastard Sword has been formed. The information displayed before him. Doyan. Bastard Sword level 24, Ultimate 10, Class Archmage Cap level 24, Paladin level 24, Kaiser level 20. Doyan frowned, thinking these people must have recognized his true identity. Recalling before Bastard Sword met him, he looked at Doyan and wondered, "Is that him?" The paladin answered, "Kaiser, the one in armor wielding the greatsword." The mage quickly added, "It's definitely him. There's no one else around who looks like that." Bastard Sword grinned cunningly. "Indeed, those gears are rare to see." After Doyan accepted their invite, the group entered the cave. The system introduced the rare Goblin Leader's Lair, normal type. Description: once a brave warrior and a legend of the Green Goblin tribe, cursed and exiled from the clan to dwell here. Limit: 4 players. Level cap: 24 and below. Doyan's group pushed deeper. Wherever they went, goblin corpses lay strewn. At the same time, a notification rang. Red Goblin Scout has been slain. The scout's death was reported to the leader. After sweeping through, Bastard Sword boasted, "Too easy, this is simple." The paladin chimed in, "It's like candy." Doyan, standing behind, observed silently. Not bad. Their strength was steady, and the team's coordination very good. Suddenly, the system announced, "The leader is alarmed and is spawning minions. Prepare for battle." From deep within the cave, red eyes turned toward the group. Bastard Sword asked confidently, "Can you handle this round, Kaiser?" The paladin smiled at him. "If it's dangerous, we'll jump in to help immediately." The mage added, "Think of this as a chance to practice coordination. Give it a try. If anything happens, we'll jump in to help." Doyan's eyes chilled as he swept toward the 3 of them. "So they want to test my skill, huh? All right, I'll act along with you for a bit," he thought, and slowly moved forward. He drew his sword. In the blink of an eye, Doyan lunged in. The system announced, "The skill charging slash has been used." In an instant, the goblins fell one after another. Bastard Sword smirked at the sight. "So it is him." The paladin added, "We found the right person." Suddenly, Bastard Sword asked the paladin, "What do you think?" He replied, "Not bad." The paladin assessed his every move. He dodged dangerous strikes very well. Despite wielding a greatsword, his speed was quite fast. Bastard Sword observed in silence from afar. With that gear, he shouldn't fear anyone here. Then the paladin spoke up, "But I still feel something's off." Bastard Sword looked puzzled and asked, "Off where?" Then analyzed, "You say an assassin was taken down by some guy who only seems to rely on gear. High damage and speed, I'll give you that. But assassin is one of the top PvP classes with stealth and paralytic poison. And yet he's still lost in a 3v1. The mage behind cut in, "Why overthink it? We're just here to deal with him anyway." Bastard Sword patted the paladin's shoulder. "Right, finish this quickly. Once this job's done, we're even." He grinned schemingly and said, Okay, let's get moving then. Bastard Sword instructed, keep your expression steady, act as if it's normal. The paladin replied confidently, don't worry about that. Doyan continued to deal with the goblins, serious. The paladin pretended to rush over. Kaiser, you're amazing. Bastard Sword joined in. We only invited you to be safe, though I have a feeling you could handle this alone. Doyan played along. Oh, it's nothing. Everyone here is skilled too, after all. Bastard Sword and the paladin continued to pretend. How did you find such a good player? It's thanks to my eye for people. Standing aside, Doyan silently judged their faces, letting team members fight alone, yet keeping that shameless, poker-faced act. He stared at Bastard Sword. Depending on the situation, they might abandon him, and if he died, they'd strip him of his gear for sure. Bastard Sword smiled and declared, all right, rest's enough, let's move on. Doyan responded coolly, understood. The paladin echoed, great. Bastard Sword thought wickedly to himself, I'll quietly send you off when I get the chance. Doyan met his gaze firmly. That won't be easy. Before long, their group advanced further inside. They split up to clear the goblins. Doyan, radiating a strong presence, cut down the surrounding goblins. Suddenly, Bastard Sword and the mage began arguing in whispers. Aim properly this time. No, I clearly had it lined up. But that goblin suddenly, the three of them seemed intent on eliminating Doyan. Doyan pretended to go along with them. I deliberately left my back exposed, and they still couldn't do anything. Maybe I should wait a bit longer. At that moment, the system announced the boss gate had opened. The door before them slowly creaked open. The goblin leader had detected the intruders. A wave of energy radiated out toward the group. An elite force of red goblins moved to block the enemy. Red Goblin Elite Troops, Elite Monster Title, Goblin Type with the Stubborn Trait. Description: among the Red Goblin soldiers, these are the most rigorously trained elite units. Elite goblins with gruesome jaws appeared and charged straight at Bastard Sword's group. He panicked and shouted, Kai, can you handle these elites for a moment? Wheel. Before he could finish, the elite goblins closed in. Bastard Sword, not seeing Doyan, yelled, Kaiser. Bastard Sword's face twisted in alarm. What the hell, that bastard might be gone. The paladin also cried out in panic. Hey, has it detected him? Suddenly the mage pointed ahead, look ahead. Bastard Sword startled and looked up. The elite goblins lunged forward. Bastard Sword had to leap up to block them. The paladin rushed in to assist. He shouted loudly, I'll hold it. Finish it off quickly, everyone. The mage responded quickly, Roger. But before she could react, a massive object hurtled down toward her. The mage's eyes widened at the sight before her. A gigantic foot appeared from the goblin leader's doorway. The goblin leader, dungeon boss, rare. Goblin type with traits, cowardly, selfishly defensive, vengeful. Description: a goblin bearing the bloodline of the greatest war god goblin of ancient times. Over time that bloodline weakened, he could no longer hide his cowardice and even lost control of his own weight. Still, he remains the tribe's leader, someone who can go mad for his comrades' sake. The paladin strained and shouted, we'll draw its attention first, so you. Suddenly the mage stammered in astonishment. How the hell could? Doyan stepped forward slowly from the rear toward them. Bastard Sword's group turned their gazes toward him. The assassin Doyan spread a wicked smile. You guys are his friends, right? The mage panicked and cried, wait a moment, yes, we're enemies, but at least let's get through this room together first. After all, we need to cooperate to clear the stage. Doyan's expression unmoved. He said dryly, that actually makes sense. Her face drained as she looked at him. That's exactly right. Just focus on clearing the dungeon first, Doyan said without a word, his eyes glowing red. A stab pierced through her body. He revealed a look of contempt as he looked at Bastard Sword's group. But I don't fucking like you. The system immediately popped multiple notifications. You have slain the supreme mage player. This player has been identified as evil, so your karma will not increase. Doyan hefted his sword and scoffed inwardly, thinking, figured as much. These guys are all scoundrels. Then he instantly teleported out of the encirclement. Luckily, he had used background to hide earlier. Doyan hid behind a rock and watched silently. I had a hunch, he thought, but I didn't expect this move to work on corpses too. Bastard Sword roared, you lunatic, you killed the mage. Do you want all of us to die together? He sneered, do you know my principle? He looked puzzled, turned his head. What? Doyan swung his arm to summon the dagger. I never shake hands with scum who lurk to stab you in the back. He smiled cruelly and continued, cooperating with people like that can only end in rot. Bastard Sword went pale with shock. That's the assassin kid's dagger. How do you have it? Doyan waved the dagger and shot back. It's your stuff, so you'd recognize it right away. One glance and you know. He couldn't believe it and blurted, unbelievable. How could a swordsman use that weapon? Don't shrug it off. What are you going to do with it? Bastard Sword gritted his teeth to fend off a goblin's blade and growled a threat. If you kill us, you think you can finish this quest alone. Thinking of the goblin leader, his voice dropped. Do you know what the chieftain's defense skill actually blocks? It negates all physical attacks. Sneering in anger, Bastard Sword mocked. That's why in this dungeon the mage is king. What can you do with that limp dagger? He answered in a flat voice, a status effect. Hearing that, Bastard Sword froze suspiciously. What? Doyun raised the dagger and jeered. You think status effects are just for show? Bastard Sword was stunned by that smile. Are you crazy? You expect to finish a goblin with the pathetic blood on that weapon? A crafty gleam lit his eyes. If it were just ordinary blood, that wouldn't be enough. Seeing that, he couldn't help blurting, what the? No sooner had he spoken than Doyun's spot was only a blur. In an instant, he slid past the two of them. Yet he still spat angrily. What can that little damage do? But before he finished, a notification popped up. Overwhelming stat difference. Assassin's dagger effect activate. The system displayed. Target is suffering bleeding status. Damage surges due to overwhelming stat disparity. HP has dropped below 50%. Bastard Sword coughing up blood froze. Overwhelming stat disparity. My level is higher, how is this possible? He looked at Doyun in despair, wondering how. Even with top gear, I'm level 24 and he's only 20. How huge must the stat gap be for this bleeding effect to be so terrifying? Sensing that gaze, Doyun mused quietly. You don't get it. I got this bleeding skill from a level 20 gacha tick. At the same time, an info panel appeared. Bleeding, rare, requires rogue class. Effect. The next successful attack after using the skill inflicts bleeding for 10 seconds. If there's a large stat disparity with the target, effectiveness may be reduced, duration and damage will adjust accordingly. Cooldown 15s. Doyun pondered skeptically. The fact it can stack surprised. He sank into his thoughts. Just like in Temrok or CTC, status effects usually don't stack when used by the same class. Suddenly, Doyun looked up with a self-satisfied smile. Who would have thought someone like me would use that trickster's skill on an assassin's weapon? Who knew? Just then Bastard Sword shouted, what kind of bleeding is this? It's hacking. He clutched his wound weakly and demanded, you're a hacker, right? No sooner had he finished speaking than Bastard Sword collapsed, followed by the notification. You have slain player Bastard Sword. This player has been identified as evil, so your karma will not increase. You have slain a red goblin elite. He sighed wearily, thinking, honestly, these guys always say the same thing. As he pondered, the paladin's roar suddenly echoed. He gritted his teeth in rage and cursed under his breath. Damn it. Staring at the two cold corpses of his comrades, the paladin frantically wondered how things had come to this. Where had he gone wrong? As if realizing something, he suddenly froze in horror. No, from the very beginning. We should never have gotten involved in this. Just as the paladin calculated his options, a keen blade flashed by. Must run now. In the blink of an eye, Doyun swept past his body. The paladin spat a mouthful of blood. As the system displayed, he was suffering bleeding status. Damage surged due to overwhelming stat disparity. Then the system showed his HP had dropped below 10%. Seeing this, he gasped, what the? A second later, the paladin fell, accompanied by the system message. You have slain player Paladin Hut C1EA7N. A series of notifications followed. This player has been identified as evil, so your karma will not increase. You have slain a red goblin elite. Doyun coldly asked one question. That damage was pretty decent. After all, I poured a full 15 points into strength. Hope it was worth it. In another corner, the goblin leader watched him. Upon seeing the bodies of its kin, it growled a few times. Then the goblin leader let out a roar, followed by the notification. The goblin leader is enraged over its slain subordinates. The roar immediately drew Doyun's attention. Seeing it charging madly, he thought with boredom. Almost forgot that guy's still standing here. A spark of interest flickered in Doyun's eyes. Well then, let's have a little fun. In an instant, the goblin leader's massive form closed in on him. Doyun didn't hesitate and twisted to dodge. He leapt and delivered a kick to it. The goblin leader yelped from the strike. Watching its body topple, Doyun gave a faint, triumphant smile. As Doyun landed, the goblin leader crashed heavily to the ground. But his gaze suddenly froze in astonishment. Hidden in the hazy smoke were a pair of blazing golden pupils. The moment it sprang up, the screen flared red. The goblin chieftain's defensive skill activated. Doyun didn't pause for a second and swung his sword forward. He sliced through, leaving a cold blade aura that ripped the giant's body apart. The system repeatedly displayed bleeding status. HP dropped below 40%. HP dropped below 30%. Suddenly it jolted and turned, eyes full of fear and fury fixed on Doyun. He gave a wicked grin and clicked his tongue, remarking, "All right, this ends here." Sensing the murderous aura, the goblin leader screamed in terror. Without hesitation, it panicked and turned to flee. Doyun frowned slightly and activated a skill, using back grab. Meanwhile, the goblin leader was frantically running away. But in the blink of an eye, he had caught up to it. Doyun curled a lip and laughed with contempt. Where do you think you're running to? That face made it shriek in fear. Only a streak of bright red blood remained on the cliff wall. With a thud, the system screen appeared. You have defeated the dungeon boss, the Goblin King. Congratulations on clearing the dungeon. The achievement has been recorded in your adventure log. You leveled up. A series of messages appeared. Dagger Mastery reached level 5. Goblin King's ultra-durable leather belt, rare, requires level 20, restricted. A leather belt of the Goblin King, crafted extremely sturdy to support his huge belly. He raised the belt in his hand excitedly. Nice rare drop. I've been needing a belt, perfect timing. Doyun didn't hesitate and manipulated the screen. Goblin King's ultra-durable leather belt, unequipping, will reduce stamina by 1, increase strength by 1, increase vitality by 2. Smiling with interest at the result, he thought not bad at all. If I counted the time, I might have climbed the rankings, but not every dungeon has a time limit. After all, not every place forces a speed race. But Doyun turned his head and looked back, a little regretful, and glanced at the gleaming shield. He pondered that he still had the loot that fell from those players to consider. The system notification lit up before him. You have collected an item dropped by a player, silver shield. A shield forged from argent iron, an extremely rare or rare, requires level 20, restricted to warrior class using shields. Special effect. The more divine power it absorbs, the greater its damage reduction. Doyun mused with delight. Always rare loot. Those guys must have spent a lot to get it. The message before him changed. Bastard Sword's training sword, the Iron Blade Bastard Sword used for speed training, rare plus, requires level 20, restricted to swordsman class. Special effect. Chance to trigger slight haste on attack. Seeing that, his gaze flicked over with curiosity. Bastard Sword's training sword. Remembering that face, Doyun snorted with derision. What a face ID-obsessed fool Bastard Sword was. Now that name means nothing. He pushed the thought aside and started calculating. I'll just sell these items for cash. The system flashed again, catching Doyun's attention. The Eye of God's skill has been activated. Seeing a crimson light far off, he wondered suspiciously what that was. Curious, Doyun strode deeper in. Invisibility skill. If so, that glow is too strong, or is it a rare herb? Immediately, the system updated. You have discovered a hidden dungeon, the lair of the Dark Goblin Mage. Before his eyes stood a deep gate. You are the first to find this hidden dungeon and receive the title, Skilled Explorer. Doyun repeated, a hidden dungeon. Countless information sprang to mind. There are many types of dungeons in this game. From party dungeons and solo bosses to labyrinths, special dungeons, and event dungeons. The image of a chained, locked door waiting to be opened appeared. But among them, the rarest and least known type is the hidden dungeon. Doyun felt drawn into the yawning gate before him. Even classes specialized in exploration rarely find these, not only because they're in absurdly illogical places, but also because the entry conditions are bizarre. Flashing lights. A cascade of information updated instantly. Confirmed only one survivor in the dungeon. Confirmed not in a party. Eligible. He clicked his tongue in disgust, muttering that it was insane. Look at how brutal the requirements are. Doyun couldn't help but grumble. A dungeon meant for parties forces a solo player to find a hidden path alone. No party allowed. Though he smiled outwardly, inwardly he added that with conditions like this, finding it is practically pointless. The lights flashed as the system displayed. Lair of the Dark Goblin Mage, hero rank, hidden dungeon type, single boss characteristic. Description: rumors of a black goblin and raven spawned countless tailies. Max players, 1 entry condition, first discoverer. The dungeon will vanish after a clear and cannot be re-entered if failed. Doyun smirked arrogantly. Hero rank, huh? I absolutely have to clear this place. The saying of goes rank 1279 freed popped up. Entering a hidden dungeon is like sticking your head into a beast's mouth. Comments erupted. What the hell are they talking about? No idea. Is it truly that hard? Is entry basically a suicide pact? Then why are people obsessed with finding hidden dungeons? Are they all suicidal? It was meant metaphoric. But anyone who's tasted a hidden dungeon has to agree with Frey. What happens when you stick your head into a beast's mouth? It crushes you immediately. A hidden dungeon is precisely that beast's mouth. It merely opens its jaws and waits. The prey will lead itself in. The end is the cold gaze of the predator. On the other side, Doyun stepped through the gate. You have entered the dungeon. He was greeted by a gray orb hurtling toward him. As the orb lunged, the system alerted. You were hit by a cursed orb and afflicted with blindness. Amid the heavy atmosphere, the system suddenly announced, blindness will narrow your vision for a period of time. Then a series of notification sounds played. The hero disposition helps you resist mental breakdown. The blindness effect was completely removed. Even so, Doyun smiled confidently. quite the dramatic greeting. A gloomy voice rang out. How dare you trespass into my home without permission? You humans are truly fearless. Before him stood a squad of undead goblins. A moment later, a notification popped up. Undead goblins of the Dark Goblin Mage. Next came countless giant spiders. Undead spiders of the Dark Goblin Mage. Doyun's brows immediately knit. Disgusting. The voice seemed to sense it and laughed. It seems you feel queasy at the sight of my offspring. As the face revealed itself, the info panel appeared. Jihad Black, named boss, hero rank, type, goblin. Special bloodline disposition, charmcaster, necromancer, nimble-fingered. Description, survivor of an extinct clan, inheritor of a noble bloodline. Jihad Black is a goblin who has lived for centuries. Seeing this, Doyun was a bit stunned and wondered, a named boss. Even if the hidden dungeon is truly difficult, this is a named boss nonetheless. Recalling that vicious dragon, Doyun calculated silently. When I fought the funeral dragon, the rewards were great. I wonder what will drop this time. Just then the deep voice echoed again. But how strange, how did a human find this place? Jihad Black laughed cruelly and remarked, I don't smell the chaotic aura of an explorer on you. You truly are a strange creature. He realized something and thought, this goblin is perceptive. Without hesitation, he unleashed his presence. However strange you are, once you set foot here, there's no escape. As if triggered, the undead swarmed toward Doyun. He wasn't afraid and even taunted. You're not even tense at all, Then let me teach you a lesson. Surrounded by the undead, Doyun immediately activated a skill. When fighting melee, a ranged attacker must always remain extremely vigilant. Seconds later, he appeared right behind Jihad Black, terrifying him. Jihad Black didn't hesitate to swing his hand, and the system announced, activated corpse control skill. Speed surged thanks to the nimble-fingered disposition. Along with the notification came a violent explosion. Activated skill, corpse explosion. A raging shockwave burst out, forcing him to brace to stay standing. As if he'd seen something, Jihad Black's expression suddenly changed. He immediately spun around. Unbeknownst to him, Doyun was standing gloomily at a distance. In his hand was a blood-stained knife, a smug smile curling at the corner of his mouth. The system coldly announced, you are afflicted with bleeding. Jihad Black cried in horror. Since when? Seeing that face, Doyun asked cheerfully, surprised are you? I told you to focus more. That smile instantly enraged him. You little rat. Jihad Black swung his hand and summoned countless undead. To see how long you can endure. He moved like a blade, leaping to the side and dodging in an instant. He didn't stop, continuously waving his hand to raise more undead, while Doyun nimbly evaded every attack. Meanwhile, he had already seen through Jihad Black's plan. I see it now, where he's aiming and where he'll strike. Staring at that crazed face, Doyun pondered the scheme he was plotting. After a moment, he found himself pressed against the wall. The smile on Jihad Black's face grew even more Chinese letter. It's over here. With a clang, a violent explosion erupted. Hidden dungeon boss Jihad Black was using his ultimate, mass corpse explosion. Jihad Black muttered madly, because you are a rare experimental specimen, I meant to go easy, but you sought your own death. To the sharp sound of the system, Doyun suddenly appeared right behind him. The trace had vanished. His gloomy voice echoed in his ear. Did your skill miss? No sooner had he finished than Doyun's fist swung straight into Jihad Black's face. He was slammed into the cliff wall. A horrific scream rang out. Jihad Black spat blood, his body trembling in pain. As he clutched his chest in pain, Doyun stepped forward, his face shrouded in shadow and radiating murderous intent. Even so he spat back, you bastard. I will definitely have my revenge. No sooner had he spoken than Doyun delivered a punch to his gut. He didn't stop and continued to swing his arm. A flurry of punches kept striking Jihad Black's face. In an instant, dozens of blows were delivered. Just as Doyun was about to strike again, he suddenly cried out, wait. Jihad Black clutched his bruised face and yelled, hey, you're hitting my bones. Hitting the bones is low. Hearing that, Doyun raised an eyebrow skeptically. What kind of boss is this? Meanwhile, the goblin kept whining, my bones hurt so much. Doyun was a bit speechless and wondered, this is supposed to be hero rank. Recalling the earlier attack, he couldn't help but assess. The corpse explosion skill is strong, but aside from that he's still too weak. Seeing Doyun move abruptly, Jihad Black flinched. Without hesitation, he immediately leaped backward. Seeing that string of actions, Doyun grew suspicious. He laughed darkly and cursed, you foolish human. I was just waiting for you to slip up. Through the murky mist, a notification appeared. Secret dungeon boss, Jihad Black. Activated bloodline trait, the header info changed. When Jihad Black's bloodline awakens, his stats will surge. Doyun jolted and wondered, stats will rise. As if thinking of something, his expression darkened. He looked pitiful, but going from hero rank to ascended hero is a whole different matter. Doyun quickly drew his blade, musing inwardly that legit raid runs all start at ascended hero rank, so he couldn't leave this be. Without hesitation, he crouched and launched forward. Then a series of notifications popped up. Strength plus 20, strength stat surpassed 100. Doyun looked at the stats and inwardly regretted maybe putting too much into strength, but with a ping the system updated. Warrior set applied, plus 7% damage to goblin-type enemy. He swung his sword without hesitation. The spot where he had stood was now nothing but a haze of dust. A notification flashed densely across his view. Thanks to Rage, the boss will take an extra 10% damage. Thanks to Sword Mastery, damage plus 10%. Jihad Black gaped and stammered that this was utterly unfair. A murderous glint lit Doyun's eyes. Faced with such destructive damage, everything was equalized. With a single slash, he completely defeated him. After Jihad Black's dreadful scream, the blue screen reappeared. You have defeated the secret dungeon boss, Jihad Black. Elsewhere, lines of text immediately popped up. Congratulations on clearing the secret dungeon. The feat has been recorded in the adventure log. Symbols and numbers flashed continuously. Since you were the first to clear this dungeon, rewards are doubled. Your level increased. You have received dungeon clear rewards. An item info line appeared. Ranker Soulstone of the Goblin Mage, a versatile gem containing a vengeful spirit. Hero rank requires level 30 mage class. Priest, Black Goblin Mage's Cloak. The black cloak bears a disguise charm for easy anonymity. Hero rank requires level 30, no class restriction, special option. When the hood is donned, the disguise mode activates. Doyun exhaled in awe. Truly hero-grade loot, really premium. Unexpected to get both a gem and auxiliary gear. His tone still showed slight dissatisfaction. The attribute lines are a bit awkward to use, but better than nothing. Just then the screen shifted again. Traces of a forgotten tribe rank. These are ruins of a vanished tribe, function unknown. Doyun froze suspiciously. Traces of a tribe. He stroked his chin thoughtfully. Rank was followed by a question mark. Even in Temrok, unidentified items looked just like this. Doyun couldn't figure it out and gave up. Whatever, we'll find out eventually. No sooner had he spoken than his gaze landed on the screen below. The system clearly displayed a strange card. Doyun raised an eyebrow. A card. He sank into thought. CTC seems heavily invested in a card system, not just for skill combos or enhancements, but even the bosses in the adventure compendium are stored as cards. Doyun grinned and muttered, if it's a monster card, it's probably just used for gear fusion, right? On the screen was its status. Jihad Black card, hero rank. Description, card sealing the soul of the Goblin Mage Jihad Black. When used, he will be summoned as a guardian and the card will disappear. He was a little surprised to read that. A guardian, which is simply a protector of its owner, like the salamander of a fire mage or the golem of an alchemist. Doyun scratched his head curiously. A guardian, sounds neat, fine. But remembering Purpletastes, two ferocious beasts, he muttered that only a divine beast like that purple-haired guy's dragon would be acceptable. As he spoke, Doyun made his choice. Guardians usually just cost upkeep and are useless. The status line immediately showed, summoning Guardian. In an instant, Jihad Black was summoned. Jihad Black named Guardian title, hero rank, Goblin species, level 1, loyalty over 100. Bloodline trait, Necromancer's curse, quick-handed. Personality, Bull is the weak, fears the strong, opportunist. Skill, raise corpse. Description, survivor of a dying tribe bearing noble blood. Jihad Black is a goblin who has lived for hundreds of years. Because his level is low, most of his power is sealed. Seeing the figure before him, he screamed in horror, why is it a human? A look of disgust immediately crossed his face. Is this thing my guardian? Doyun drifted into imagination. It should have been cool and powerful like other guardians, but never mind. Jihad Black was so desperate he fell to his knees. I can't believe I must serve some filthy human. Seeing this, Doyun felt a bit disdainful, a goblin only lamenting its fate. The more he looked, the more contempt he felt. Bull is the weak, fears the strong, and opportunist. What a monstrous trait. Just as the thought passed, the system popped up. Guardian Jihad Black's loyalty is very low. Due to Jihad Black's nature, if loyalty is too low, he may betray you. Be careful. Reading this, he couldn't help but widen his eyes and curse inwardly. Insane. Seeing that cowardly posture, Doyun clicked his tongue in contempt. With that attitude, I can't leave him be. With that thought, he stepped forward into the goblin's horrified stare. Seeing Doyun staring, Jihad Black demanded, what, you human scum? He frowned in displeasure. How dare you call your master a human? Doyun angrily shoved his face close and snarled, repeating the words he'd just said. An oppressive aura descended, making Jihad Black's face cringe in terror. He let out a dark laugh, cracked his knuckles threateningly, and said, your thinking is ruined. For every second that passes, I'll give you a beating. Before he could fully comprehend, A look of obvious doubt crossed his face. Do-yeon offered no explanation, just a cruel smile. It's time to take your beating. His large shadow loomed over Jihad Black, who fell back in terror and sat sprawled on the ground. In the cave, only the sharp sounds mixed with his pitiful cries remained, accompanied by a series of flashing system notifications. You attacked your guardian. Loyalty 2 100, Loyalty 3 100, Loyalty 4 100, Loyalty 5 100, Loyalty 6 100. The sky shifted to a pink dusk. The game room door opened. Do-yeon stretched, looked outside, and remarked that it was starting to get dark. When he was done, he left the room and asked, "Mom, is there anything to eat at home?" But only his sister replied, "Nope. Why are you asking when you're hungry?" Do-yeon turned to look at his carefree sister on the sofa. His face showed helplessness, and he sighed inwardly, really at a loss. Then Do-yeon sat down with a question. "Where's Mom?" She answered curtly that Mom had an appointment. He asked what she was watching. She replied, "Game God." He was briefly surprised. "God, you play that too?" She nonchalantly replied that who doesn't play these days. That comment made Do-yeon exclaim in astonishment. "Really?" She said, "Yes, I'm already level 71. This information surprised him even more. Wow. Then Do-yeon wondered aloud whether reaching 71 must have required intense grinding. She continued munching snacks lazily and replied, "Maybe 6 months. A friend dragged me in and said they'd carry me, but the game's actually fun." He mentally calculated that 6 months. Really? It takes that long to reach level 7. She immediately teased him back that it's because she didn't grind 10 hours a day like someone else. This time Do-yeon was truly speechless and didn't respond. At that moment, a news segment came on TV, followed by a report about the Hero Guild. "I know that guild." His attention snapped toward it. "The Hero Guild," Do-yeon's sister explained to him. "They're the hottest group among young people right now. In terms of fame, they're as big as Deathblight." He grew more curious. Why is that? Aren't they in the top 10? The answer was simple, because they're handsome. On God TV's screen now was the Hero Guild leader, Verge. She propped her chin and lazily added that even if some guys like Deathblight, most girls still adore the Hero Guild. He immediately mocked. "That guy looks like a pampered rich kid." Unlike him, his sister was mesmerized. "Look at his face. It's the perfect mix of masculinity and handsomeness. His class is on another level compared to you." He muttered in disgust that someone with a pelican face like her has no right to judge. Too annoyed, Do-yeon stood up to leave to exercise. Unexpectedly, his sister exclaimed that with that face, no wonder his YouTube channel is popular. His steps halted and he asked, "YouTube?" Though she acted indifferent, she answered all his questions. "These guilds all run YouTube channels now. Some even hit 100 million views." Do-yeon's eyes widened, and his mouth dropped in amazement. He was drawn in and edged closer to ask details. 100 million views, so he must make a fortune. His excitement scared her. Apparently, he earned up to 1 billion won. That number was unimaginable to Do-yeon. 1 billion won. How many fried chickens could that buy? He kept repeating like a dazed man, 1 billion, 1 billion. She called out worriedly, "Hey, are you okay?" But Do-yeon wandered into the room in a daze, mumbling 1 billion, 1 billion. Then the door gently closed behind him. Do-yeon's sister frowned in confusion. "What the heck? That photo looks so weird." A system notification sounded as Do-yeon reconnected to the game. ID verified, synchronization complete. Connecting to the world of God of Savior. Do-yeon logged in and prepared to record, just record for safety. This footage might be useful later. Jihad Black rubbed his eyes and stepped out of the black circle. "You're in." He felt annoyed and asked, "So you're here. Are you going to drop the honorifics too?" Do-yeon's annoyed tone made Jihad Black fluster and stammer, "No, master." Do-yeon reminded him, "It's fine, call me whatever makes you comfortable." Then he tossed him a set of clothes. "Put this on." With an explanation, "I can't equip it anyway for now, and you need something to cover yourself." Suddenly, the system notified, "Loyalty decreased by 2. Jihad Black replied with a creepy smile, "Since my master has given me clothes to wear, I shall be a free entity." Seeing that, Do-yeon glared angrily. Pressure radiated heavily. What? Jihad Black's move was immediately flagged as wrong. He panicked and tried to excuse himself. "No, master, thank you very much." The system displayed, "Loyalty increased by 2. Seeing that, Do-yeon looked on in disgust, thinking, is this loyalty a rubber band, or what with how it stretches? Dressed in the shirt, Jihad Black spoke, "Master, where are we going now?" As if remembering their task, Do-yeon snapped back to attention and looked ahead. "We have to run." These words left Jihad Black stunned. Then the monster's pained screams echo. The scene was full of defeated monsters. The system kept announcing, "You have slain the red imp in the forest. You have killed the giant spider." Looking at the corpses of the defeated beasts, Jihad Black felt some pity for them. He thought they were truly pitiful. Then he looked at Doyun, who was frantically slaughtering monsters. He never hit the wrong targets, yet he ran into this demon. Jihad Black's thoughts were interrupted by a call. Come here. He immediately looked up and asked, Master. Doyun sat down to rest, while waiting for Jihad Black to run over, and quickly gave him a task. Take all those items you picked up and try turning them into undead. He obediently followed. Yes, understood. Then Jihad Black set the sword in his hand down. He stepped up to a nearby monster. A wave of dark energy rose, and Jihad Black began chanting. The monster was enveloped by the energy. Its soul seemed to be drained. Seeing that, Doyun was impressed. The system announced, Guardian Jihad Black successfully turned the forest red imps into undead. A moment later, Jihad Black had converted all the imps into his legion, adding an explanation. All done, Master. Normally I can raise an entire army, but this is my current limit. He praised him, not bad. Doyun thought to himself that this would definitely come in handy later. Then Jihad Black continued to say something to the red imp. They obeyed and ran off at once. Seeing this, Doyun wondered in confusion. Where are they going? Jihad Black answered with a proud smile. I ordered them to go collect the loot, Master. He glared at him with even more contempt, already ordering them around to do chores. But he quickly pushed the petty thought aside and calculated. I wonder when I'll reach level 2. I wish a few elite monsters would show up. Unexpectedly, a new piece of information was provided. Elite monsters. If it's those high-grade ones, I know where they are, Master. Doyun startled and asked, what? Jihad Black said seriously, those guys do nothing all day. They just gather in one spot. Hearing that, Doyun's demeanor changed noticeably. His smile turned excited. Those elite monsters are all gathered in one place. Above the forest, the sky was clear blue. The elite monsters had already gathered in one area. Jihad Black and Doyun were hiding to one side. What do you think, Master? That's them, right? Doyun grinned in excitement. It was unbelievable. Looking at the monsters before him, he couldn't help wondering how there could be so many. A notification appeared. Sudden Warriors Challenge activated. Warriors Challenge, emergency quest rank, reward 100 gold, some experience, 1 intermediate skill pull ticket, duration 48 hours. Reading that, Doyun snorted inwardly. An intermediate skill pull ticket too. This run has to be completed. The elite monsters quickly noticed his presence. Doyun didn't waste time and lunged forward. The corner of his mouth curved into a smile. Hey you lot, the red goblin prepared to counterattack. It swung its sword down with force. Doyun easily dodged and even struck back. The red goblin snarled threateningly. However, it still took a solid blow to the face. Blood gushed from its nose. The red goblin rolled several times backward from the impact. Doyun's combat had only just begun. He slid through the monsters like a gust of wind while activating a savage thrust. System messages immediately appeared. Inflicted bleeding status. The moment Doyun paused, the monsters fell to the ground. From the opposite side, a red goblin came running. Doyun met its attack head-on. Then he reached back and drew his weapon. The red goblin's face registered surprise. Doyun immediately kicked it to the ground. The red goblin vomited blood after taking the full hit. At that moment, he finally touched the pommel of his sword and instantly drew the blade. The red goblin let out a threatening roar, but that had no effect on Doyun. He delivered a decisive killing blow. Doyun's expression did not change. The red goblin writhed in pain. Its lifeless body collapsed to the ground. From the bushes, Jihad Black watched and thought to himself, this is horrifying. He could hardly believe his eyes. I saw him in the western forest too, but that guy can't be ordinary. Horror filled Jihad Black's face as he looked at Doyun. He's a fiend, a true demon. The sword in his hand slammed forcefully into the ground. Doyun looked around and muttered, the warriors are basically cleaned up. Maybe it's time for him to reveal himself. Unexpectedly, another monster's silhouette appeared in the distance, accompanied by several notifications. You have encountered a hidden boss, Grand Warrior Goblin Kara. Information about the quest and the opponent appeared. The Warrior's Challenge shifts to the Grand Warrior Challenge. Grand Warrior Goblin Karuk, Hidden Boss Elite Rank, Traits, Body Enhancement, Berserk. However, Doyun himself broke into a wicked smile. Here we go, my loot bag. He raised the sword in his hand. Doyun wasted no time and charged at his opponent. The two fought with do-or-die intensity. From a distance, Jihad Black shouted worriedly, don't. He's too much for Master. He kindly warned, if he hits him, your sword will shatter. The Grand Warrior Goblin Karuk used a brutal strike. Doyun's eyes didn't flicker at all. Karuk raised the axe high, then brought it down with force. Yet it failed to wound Doyan. Even Jihad Black hiding nearby was taken aback. Doyan was now absorbing its attack. A satisfied smile spread across his face. This demeanor unnerved Karuk. It roared and struck again. The hand holding Doyan's weapon began to move. He didn't let it attack, but launched a preemptive strike. This was followed by a flurry of high-speed attacks. Jihad Black couldn't believe his eyes and kept asking himself, what's happening right now? He watched the scene in astonishment. The question kept arising, parrying. As for the parry skill, it's a defensive move that deflects an opponent's attack and can fail if mistimed. Though the swordsman's only defensive skill, it's famed for surpassing ordinary skill tiers. When conditions are met, it's an overpowered technique that can neutralize even legendary skill. This skill has a drawback, but because its success rate is extremely low, almost no one dares use it in real combat. On the other side, Doyan thought with delight. Successfully used the parry skill. Can't believe I got this from a low-tier gacha pull. A system message appeared. Karuk continued to unleash brutal strikes. An explosion followed. Before Karuk could understand what happened, Doyan had appeared behind it. Only then did Karuk turn its head back. A smile was on Doyan's face. Karuk let out a cry of surprise. Jihad Black was so stunned his eyes widened. In the blink of an eye, Doyan had severed Karuk's head. You have defeated the hidden boss Grand Warrior Goblin Karuk. This achievement has been recorded in your adventure log. System messages followed. Congratulations on completing the Grand Warrior Challenge. Rewards: 200 gold, a large amount of experience, 2 intermediate skill pull tickets, and Karuk's outfit. He himself was so surprised he yelled, "Oh my god, he's actually dead, and I even got 2 pull tickets." Doyan was so excited, he started bouncing on the spot. Jihad Black stood to the side, grimacing, thinking, here we go again. He began making comparisons. In battle, he looks like a demon, but when it comes to gacha spins, it's always the same. Jihad Black watched Doyan's change in attitude and asked himself why he suddenly acts like an idiot. Over here, he was operating the system. A series of skills appeared, each skill's details displayed in turn. Rising Dragon Kick, rare quality, requires the monk class, deals massive damage with the legs, cooldown 21 seconds. Heavy Strike, rare rank, requires support, increases physical attack by 40 for 40 seconds, cooldown 40 seconds. Doyan paid immediate attention. Heavy Strike, this is a core move for strength builds, lasts 40 seconds, and its cooldown is also 40 seconds. It's like a near-permanent power boost. Furthermore, it turns an ordinary sword into something with the power of a greatsword. Reading this, Doyan was so excited he covered his face. Awesome, this is truly epic. An assassin can solo and fight. His look grew more dangerous. Plus there's Rising Dragon Kick too. I've wanted to try this for a long time. It looks so cool, perfect, everything's great. That wasn't all. The system continued with more messages. Unidentified item. Karuk's red leather coat, crafted from the hide of Grand Warrior Goblin Karuk. Heroic rank, Karuk's red leather pants made from Karuk's durable hide. Heroic rank. Below were several other items. Karuk's green-red leather pauldrons. Pauldrons crafted from Grand Warrior Karuk's hide. Rare plus rank, Karuk's essence ring. The ring contains Karuk's essential power. Heroic rank. Reading that, Doyan commented, "Finally, I can get rid of this tattered goblin out." He wasted no time and equipped them immediately. A system notification appeared along with light as the equipment changed. You have equipped the full Grand Warrior green-red set. Set effects: area attack range plus 10%, melee damage plus 65%, all stats plus 4. Doyan excitedly looked himself over and remarked that although the colors are a bit flashy, this looks much cooler, and Jihad Black quickly agreed. "It suits you well, Master." Then he stepped closer and grimaced, "Master, sometimes you scare me." Doyan welcomed the comment eagerly. "You think so too." He added proudly, "Even I find myself scary. Who knows how far I'll go." Jihad Black was left speechless by Doyan's narcissism. He sighed inwardly and thought, this lunatic. Unexpectedly, that single thought triggered a notification. Loyalty decreased by 1. Doyan immediately looked at him and demanded, "What was that just now? Did you just insult me in your head?" Jihad Black vehemently denied it. "Not at all, Master." However, Doyan adopted a threatening tone. "Try stepping out of line, and you're dead for sure." Jihad Black stammered a nervous laugh and replied, "Yes, Master." Loyalty increased by 1. Only then did Doyan reluctantly let out a sigh. He sheathed his weapon and began to move. "Let's go." Jihad Black beside him couldn't hide his curiosity. "Where are we going?" Doyan gave a simple answer. "It's time to hunt bosses." He nodded and agreed offhand. "Since we've taken down one Grand Warrior, killing a few more won't hurt." No sooner had he said that than Jihad Black felt something was off. Doyan was reading the notifications that appeared before him. To enter the next city, you must complete the Boss Hunting Continent Challenge, Field Challenge Level 1. Requirement, Level 24. Objective, defeat Spider Queen Eliza. Their next stop was the spawn area for Spider Queen Eliza in the Western Forest. Other players had already gathered there. No one knew when she would appear, probably in about 10 minutes. Small groups kept discussing, where will she surface this time? I heard last time she was at the Eastern Web. They all watched the terrain carefully. Maybe this time it'll be west or north. By now Do-yeon and Jihad Black had arrived. He looked down at him and asked, seriously, do you actually know where the boss will spawn? Jihad Black answered honestly without hiding anything. No, master. This boss is a new generation, so even I don't know much about it. Upon hearing that, Do-yeon sighed in exasperation. Yet you said you knew everything about this forest before. He seemed not to notice Do-yeon's disappointed tone. Do-yeon was running his own calculations, so where will it appear? He studied the terrain and thought that wherever it appeared, he'd just rush in and use the backstab move. At that moment, system messages suddenly appeared. Activated trait Slayer's Fortune. The location of Spider Queen Eliza has been revealed. A red silhouette of the Spider Queen was revealed on the ground, startling Do-yeon. What? He couldn't help feeling puzzled. I'm not titled Spider Slayer, am I? But he quickly reasoned it out. Wait, maybe the effect doesn't only apply to the boss I killed, but to all boss types. But Do-yeon didn't waste time on idle thoughts. Whatever, it's not important right now. The corner of his mouth twisted into an inhuman smile. What matters is I can solo this boss with a backstab. A green light appeared on the ground. From the shadows came the form of a fat spider, constantly shrieking, Eliza, Eliza. In the blink of an eye, Do-yeon was behind it. You have encountered Spider Queen Eliza. He looked at his opponent with unmasked excitement, who knew that move would actually work. Jihad Black beside him asked in surprise, Master, how could you do that? Do-yeon replied lazily, it's a long story. His focus was now on the opponent before him. Consider this an easy payday. But Do-yeon stared at Eliza and observed. This big one is massive. Spider Queen Eliza, field elite boss, type. Spider, traits, steel webbing, deadly venom, spider sensor. It let out a threatening roar and lunged forward. Eliza. The cry made him wince in irritation. As it charged, it kept calling, Eliza, Eliza, Eliza. Meanwhile, Do-yeon stepped back. He moved and used the backstab skill. In an instant, Do-yeon vanished from Eliza's sight. It cried out in surprise, EO. A silhouette of a dragon appeared behind. Do-yeon launched an attack with Rising Dragon Kick. The set effect increased damage by 6%. Eliza was struck until her eyes widened. Do-yeon focused entirely on her. As the attack ended, Eliza collapsed to the ground. Do-yeon wasted no time and immediately rushed in to strike. Eliza flinched and let out a dry cry, Eliza. But Do-yeon sliced past her with high-speed slashes. His foot skidded along the ground. Then Do-yeon gathered momentum and charged at Eliza. System Noda. You are using an enhancement skill. Attack power has increased. He accelerated and lunged at Eliza. This time fear showed on her face. Eliza. System Notice. You used Rising Dragon Kick. The silhouette of a golden dragon appeared again. Eliza took a kick squarely to the head and crumpled. She vomited blood from the pain. Eliza's body slammed hard into the ground. Jihad Black, who had been hiding, thought to himself, my God, pity whoever faces that demon. Do-yeon stood motionless, staring at Eliza lying flattened before him. She turned her glossy eyes toward him and called, Eliza. His gaze flashed with killing intent. He didn't know what the name Eliza meant, but Do-yeon had plenty of patience to force her to explain. Let's see how long you can keep silent. Knowing this human was not joking, Eliza screamed louder, La Eliza. Jihad Black watched without daring to breathe. In his head, he had only one thought. His master is truly cruel. Do-yeon still didn't stop. Eliza, Eliza, Eliza. Then Jihad Black froze as if remembering something. Eliza, that name sounds familiar. His mouth dropped open as he realized. He hurriedly leapt forward to stop him. Master, please stop. Wait, Master, please stop. This urgency puzzled Do-yeon. What's wrong? Jihad Black ran to Eliza and anxiously said, Eliza, it's me. Open your eyes, Eliza. She looked at him and replied, Eliza. Jihad Black removed his hood and continued, Eliza, it's me. Don't you recognize me? Eliza's eyes welled with tears. Eliza, Eliza, Eliza. The story began 150 years ago. Back then, Jihad Black was stronger than he is now. While moving, he heard the name Liza called. He looked at the spider before him and noticed something odd. Eliza stared at him and kept calling Liza, Liza. Jihad Black was intrigued. Do spiders like this even exist? He smiled and suggested, hey, want to come with me? Eliza excitedly cried, Liza. Her glossy eyes looked at him. Liza, Liza. The cries continued. Liza, Liza. Jihad Black replied, Liza is your name. Then laughed, but calling you Liza is too plain. How about Eliza? Eliza loved the name so much she jumped up. Liza, Liza. Jihad Black explained, not Liza, Eliza. But she didn't understand. He gave up and said, fine, whatever, you'll be called Eliza. Then he reached for his cloak. Eliza, I have to run an errand alone today. This announcement puzzled Eliza so much she tilted her head. Liza. Jihad Black refused. No, it's still too dangerous for you there. She could only watch him leave, Liza. As he reached the door, Jihad Black didn't forget to call back. All right then, I'm off. Eliza had been staring at him the whole time. Liza. But the story had a sad ending. The master never returned. Time passed, dusk fell, the moon rose bright and then set. The sun began another day. A year passed, 10 years passed, 100 years passed. She waited tirelessly for her master until the little hut slowly rotted with time. Finally, a momentous decision was made. Eliza decided to head to the western forest to find the place where she and her master first met. Throughout the journey, she repeated the name given to her so she wouldn't forget. At last, there was a touching reunion. Eliza, Liza, Liza. Doyun stood aside and asked nonchalantly, so you abandoned Eliza? This question made Jihad Black freeze. But then the two rushed into each other's arms and sobbed again. Eliza, Liza, Liza. Another question arose. Why did you have to hide? It's not just a few years, but 150 years. This time Jihad Black spoke softly. I cannot reveal that, master. It's beyond my current capability. This answer was puzzling. What do you mean by that? But he explained once more. I'm sorry, master. His serious face left Doyun no choice but to believe him. He sighed and looked around. What should we do next? This is the final quest, so I can't abandon it halfway. Jihad Black frowned in agreement. That's right, master. Just then Eliza spoke again. Liza, Liza. He immediately looked toward her. What is it? Eliza's expression changed. Liza. Hearing this, Jihad Black was astonished. What do you mean by that? He tried to stop it with all his might. No, absolutely not. However, Eliza persisted, demanding Liza, Liza. Doyun interjected in confusion. Hey, what's going on? Jihad Black put on a dangerous expression and explained. It's asking me to finish off the master.